All right, guys. So I'm starting the stream 7:19. I'm gonna share the link so that people can jump on. This is the 2019 Kyo and Friends Fantasy Football League draft review. Bear with me just maybe about 30 seconds to a minute. I'm sharing the link on just to keep the live video updated. I'm sharing the link on our group me. So it's taking me a little while. Just gonna see. All right, so we've been up for a minute and 30 seconds. I'm not sure if anybody is on. Welcome to live chat. Okay. All right, Joe's on. So I'll introduce the video and then how I'm going to be doing it this year. Not much variance. I like starting the draft reverse order. So from 12 to 1, I'm going to review everybody's team, give a little bit of like pick by pick analysis. I'll try to be quick just because the season's starting in about an hour. And then also give like a 2-3 minute summary at the end of each team, give them a grade, a letter grade. And then at the end of all 12 teams, I will be giving what I think was the rankings, the power rankings after the draft. Of course, those are fluid. So as drafts come, as trades happen, and as people get hurt, people sign, people don't sign, that's going to be very fluid. But I'll just jump right in just to get through this before the season starts. I probably can't make any guarantees, but if you're rocking with me, if you have any questions or concerns, if you have any questions or concerns, you can text it on the live chat. I prefer that than the group me just because I can't be going back and forth. All right, and so the review, we'll start with Angel's team, who had the 12th pick. His team's name is Juju on that beat. He had pick 12. He starts with OBJ and with Juju. So I thought that turn was very solid, efficient. Like you went with high, really upside guys. OBJ, 4 out of the last 5 years, over 1,000 yards, over 90 catches, 1,300 yards in 3 of those years, and that's with Eli. We all like Baker. Well, not everybody, but consensus thinks that he's a better quarterback, at least today, than Eli is. They got more weapons, Chubb, Njoku, Landry. So the focus of the defenses cannot solely cover him 2-3 guys at a time. And if they do, the other weapons on that team will thrive. I think Juju, the pick with Juju, even if he just matches what he did last year, it was a number 1 season. So there's 168 targets that Antonio Brown leaves behind. And with those targets are going to be spread out, but he had Juju last year had 166 targets, 111 receptions, 1,400 yards, 1,426 yards, and 7 TDs. That's a number 1 receiver. So even with those extra targets, even if he just remains the same, because that's always kind of the regression to a lower standard. No, I think we can think that Juju will maintain that level of consistency, barring injury. The opportunity is there for him to be the number 1 option for Roethlisberger. I think then you took Ty at your next turn. Your next turn, I'll go 2 picks at a time. You took Ty at pick 36, and then Diggs pick 37. This is where different teams had different strategies this year. I think these were, you didn't need them, right? Even if you wanted to load up on receivers later on, I think you definitely could have loaded up on different high upside guys that, I mean, TY especially, bro, we knew Andrew Luck had retired the day before, so that wasn't going to change. He was falling. And that day, I think in our draft, he could have fell to fifth, maybe fourth, fifth round. You took him there at the turn with the third pick. I like Diggs. I have no problem with Diggs, but the thing kind of just piggybacking because I'm jumping back and forth. TY, 5 of the last 7 years, he's had over 1,000 yards. However, the 2 years he didn't was his rookie year, which granted doesn't really, we can't hold that against him. And then the year Luck was out in 2017. He's a small guy. That's another thing. I didn't realize that he's not like your traditional number one receiver. And you think even at just 6 feet tall, whatever size, after 6 feet and up, you think I can be the X raw receiver, go up against anybody. He's a smaller guy. So you think of him, I think he's 5'8", 5'9", to be the number one guy with a maybe not that accurate quarterback. The thing about Luck, Luck made him amazing. And not to take anything away from him, but even if he becomes the slot receiver, I don't know that Jacoby Brissett can match that efficiency. Yeah, it's your third guy, but still, you didn't need to take him there. Now Diggs, last year actually was his quote unquote breakout season. Had 149 targets, 100 receptions, 1,021 yards, and 9 TDs. Bro, I mean, for your third or fourth wide receiver, great. We can kind of argue back and forth if you needed to take him, but that's fine. I mean, I have wrote here, at least if you take at least one running back in that space, Ingram, Derrick Henry, Geis, David Montgomery, James White, or if you want to fast backtrack even to the first turn that you had, you could have went one receiver, one running back, and then loaded up on all these receivers if that was kind of the goal. But we'll continue from here on out. Then you take AJ Green, and I was like, you were just being a contrarian at this time. I know you took best play available. I can't argue that AJ Green at 5 in the 5th round, pick 60, because that's the last pick of the 5th round, was a horrible pick, just not for the makeup of your team. You kind of go into it like having to make a trade in order to kind of get that receiver that you need. Then you took O.J. Howard. I love the upside with O.J. Howard. I've, no issue with the player, just the makeup of your team at this point. You have 5 receivers and 1 tight end. Punting on running back, you kind of make up for it. So I'm talking a lot of trash. You did a decent job of taking like every single backup that has upside. But I just don't build a team that way. Like I need at least one elite option or number one option on as a running back. But the O.J. Howard, I think with the new coach Arian, I think with Winston there, I think with the Deshaun Jackson leaving, so there's a lot more. There's targets there to kind of be spread around with Goodwin, and O.J. Howard. So overall, you got yourself a top 5 tight end. There's no problem with that. The next one is you took Latavius Murray with the Saints. He fell to 7th round. I mean, he's gonna have the Mark Ingram role. He's gonna spell Kamara. He's gonna spell Kamara, and then that role in that offense did have value. The only thing about Latavius Murray, and I mean, granted, why he fell to the 7th round, the end of the 7th round, is because he's not known to be a good pass catcher. Ingram, when he spelled Kamara, would still get a couple screens here. They could keep him in on 3rd down. We know when Murray's in the game, it's just to run the ball. Like it'll be almost like a dead giveaway. It's not something that the Saints can mask. So that's the only thing that, as your first running back, maybe if that was your 3rd running back or even your 2nd running back, I'm not judging it that hard, but we'll continue. Then you took Rashad Penny. So your turn there was Latavius Murray, Rashad Penny. If Carson gets hurt, he's probably the best upside running back that's there. He's a good backup running back. He was drafted in the first round last year. You know they want to run the ball. It's not a bad pick. So you're starting to build up draft capital with running backs. Your next pick, pick 9, the end of the 9th round, 108, was Darrell Henderson. He was a 3rd round draft pick. Gurley. Here's the thing about Gurley. They're gonna spell him a lot more this year. The Rams didn't draft this kid to not play him. So they had already signed Brown. They had already given the money to Brown because the free agency started before the draft this year. So they signed Brown and still went out and got Henderson. Was it, best player available in their draft board? Maybe, but it's not a bad pick. So taking them there in the 9th round, at this point, there's no running backs with starting jobs. Other than Singletary and those people that got lucky not lucky, but kind of drafted that their lotto tickets have hit. McCoy, Singletary. Other than those people, you picked up guys that later on in the season can have value. Nyheim Hines. So your turn there was Darrell Henderson and Nyheim Hines, which is good, man. Last year in a PPR league, there's value there. You can kind of stick them in. If the Colts are behind at any point during the season, they like to throw. They kind of fall back to throwing to the running backs. Jacoby Brissett is not known for a cannon of an arm. So if they're behind, those dump off passes you're gonna kind of live on that. And in the PPR league, is a stud, bro. He had over 60 catches last year, 63 catches, 425 yards receiving, and I think in total he had about 700 yards running and receiving last year. He was only a rookie, so he can kind of fill in. Max health and consistency hasn't always been up to par, so. That I'm not mad at you for that pick. Then you took Justice Hill. So now you went, let's see, I think it was 5 straight receivers, 1 tight end, and then you just went 5 running backs, which is how you do it. Like I can't get mad at you. I can't get mad at you for the way you made up for the draft. You kind of hit on these very high upside guys. The Ravens ran the ball the most last year, right? So we can agree that it's not only going to be Ingram's show. He's a 29-year-old guy. They're not going to run him into the ground. Yes, he can be a workhorse back because his body isn't as beat up as most 29-year-old running backs. So, but they don't draft Justice Hill with the speed that he brings and not intend to use him, whether it's in screens, whether it's just to be the 3rd down back. He's going to have a solid role on his team. And if anything happens to Ingram, he could run away with that could be a steal of the draft as well. Then you took Lamar Jackson, who at the time of the draft, you made the joke, but he is your best running back. He has the best chance to hit 1,000 yards as a running back. He could be the first guy. Vic never even did it. So he can definitely be that gives you a floor weekly at quarterback that a lot of these other guys don't have. Even if he's trash, you can't throw 2-3 interceptions, but if he has low output with, maybe 150 yards to 200 yards throwing, that could be his average. And still, if he's running for 50, 60, 100 yards a game, you have a good floor there where you can potentially hit 15 to 20 points on average with your quarterback, which is what ideally as a floor is what you want. It won't lose you the week. You took the Browns D, who I'm not sure why the hype behind them, to be 100% honest, because I don't remember their defense being great last year, and I didn't see elite pickups this free agency. I know they had a couple draft picks, but I'm not here to judge the defense. It was the industry happens to like them. I don't have a solid opinion up or down with them. You took Gostkowski as the kicker. It's a kicker. You kind of took him a little bit early, but I guess they were going around this range. Then you took Damian Harris from New England. I hate how many people New England has. Running backs, Burkhead. I trashed Hogan and trying to think who the other guy last year that was going 4th, 5th round. Because and I'm gonna I like Damian Harris. He was the lead back in Alabama last year. So Jacobs was actually the second back that they had there. So he obviously had enough talent to start on a championship contending team. Nick Saban loved him. He was the lead guy. Didn't have any fumble problems. So the same way Belichick, doesn't like when people fumble, he can definitely have a role if things fall in front of him. So I mean, it's a lottery ticket. That's a decent lottery ticket. If he gets if he gets some playing time, he can work his way into like a more trusted role. You took Chase Edmonds. I mean, the backup to Johnson. If anything happens to Johnson, you got the number one guy. I don't know that there's value in him even as a player though, because he's had times to like start and he's never made an impression. But that was with a really bad line a couple of years ago. And then I wrote, just the one. My opinion of the team is, had you just taken one running back in those first 5-6 rounds, this is like a championship contending team to me. One of those elite, any name in those top 3 rounds of guys that had solid value, that are the starters, that are the ball, they're going to be the ball hawks on their team. I think this is like a championship team no matter what. I gave you a B- / a B because I like the upside running backs that you took. It's not like none of except Edmonds, and that was your last pick of the draft. None of the guys that you took to try to beef up your running backs after that little run do I have a problem with. And actually in PPR, you're going to have some value with some of these guys. So, I mean, B-, B+, I mean, not B+, B- to a B, more on the B- side. Had you taken any running back early, top 3 rounds, you have a championship contending team. But better, it was a solid draft. All right, so I'm moving on to Ari. His team's name was Westro's Cheeky Bastard. He had pick 11. He picked Todd Gurley at 11. I wrote Yes Girl. So, I mean, like, for me, I get the concerns with the knee 100%. I get it. But end of the first round he had 19 touchdowns total in 2017, 23 total last year. He didn't even play the whole year. That upside is, you got to take that risk. What's his name? Juan took Melvin Gordon. Antonio took Zeke. I don't see a problem with taking Gurley. Yes, they may not run him to the ground where he's getting 20, 25 touches a game. That might be for the better. Because if you can guarantee me he's playing every game and getting between 15 to 20 touches, elite touches by the goal line, screens that he's busting open, if they're conserving him for the late, so that you got him in the playoffs this year instead of what it was last year where he kind of faded toward the end, sign me up all the time, especially at the end of the first round. You took Tyreek Hill. I wrote, if the legal troubles, if nothing comes from that domestic abuse, violence thing, and I'm not here to judge him. I don't know if it was real, not real, but the phone call sounded really incriminating, right? If nothing happens with that, if he doesn't get suspended, if he just stays out of trouble, then yeah, you got yourself an elite first round talent to start the second round. And that's why I was telling you, especially, having that turn is not bad, especially a year like this where there's about 15 to 15, about 19 guys that are like first round talents. Up until maybe the middle of the second round, end of the second round, is there like a drop in like what elite talents are, and he could have won in the first round if it wasn't for the legal troubles. Actually, he's probably second or third receiver off the board. You took Marlon Mack, and here's where I'm kind of like, You've taken, there's already 3 consecutive picks that you've taken that are kind of iffy. The reason Marlon Mack is iffy, yes, it's a great offensive line. Well, good. They kept Andrew Luck upright last year. They were better. They drafted like 3 linemen last year, the kid from Notre Dame. I'm sure Juan will agree that they protected Andrew Luck. Unfortunately, it was a year too late because the year before that, Andrew Luck was actually the years before that, 2-3 years in a row, he was the most sacked guy in the league. So just all that to say that Marlon Mack benefited from that, right? You have Marlon Mack that because Andrew Luck was healthy the entire year and the line was a lot better, he was able to kind of thrive in that lineup last year. I don't know without Andrew Luck. Him and Ty are both guys that I would have stayed away from. If there was value, like if they fell 4th, 5th, 6th round, I think that's the value where you take them, and then it's like, okay, you're taking a lottery pick at that point. Not lottery pick, but you have an upside guy where you haven't wasted an elite round pick. Those top 3 picks are people that you need to play, to be focal points of your team. But still, I mean, the lineup, that line is still good. They haven't lost anybody to injury, anybody to free agency. They kind of returned the same core guys that they had last year, and they might, to help Brissett, they might run him into the ground. So it might be, it's a 50-50 shot. He might thrive in this lineup because they're going to use him so much to keep the pressure off for Brissett. We'll see how there's really truly a wild card. We don't know how they're going to respond to Andrew Luck retiring a week before the season started. You then took Brandon Cooks. Well, I wrote solid, bro. That's a good high floor number 2 receiver for you to have on your team. You know what you're gonna get. Consistency, and he's young, so he's been consistent. I wrote it down. Hold on. 4 out of the 5 years in the league, over 1,000 yards. Last year he had 80 catches, 1,200 yards, 117 targets. I did write the targets may go down slightly because Cooper Kupp is back, but still, he's been in the Patriots and the Saints, teams that spread the ball around. He still gets he gets open enough to get his in any of those teams. And I don't think this Rams team is any different. Brandon Cooks is a solid, as they say in wrestling, a solid hand. Like, you're gonna get consistency from him. He knows what he's doing, and there's always the potential for him if one of the other guys gets hurt, which you're not hoping for. But if Woods or Cooper Kupp, if anything happens to them, to do what he did last year, which would be a number 1, borderline 1B, number 2, but a high number 2 receiver that you got there. Then you took Allen Robinson. Here's another one that I'm like, eh. So you got, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just like a lot of question marks, man. Like, I know he's technically the number 1. I don't know if Joe's still watching, but he's not, like, that team is not focusing on him being the number 1. Like, the Bears, what they did last year, spread the ball around. Like, Taylor Gabriel had, I think, 750 yards, and nobody even thinks about Taylor Gabriel. This kid only had, I think, did I write it down? No, I didn't even write it down. But he didn't crack 1,000. I can tell you that. And it's so the last time he was elite, right, where we were like, Allen Robinson, you got to draft him early, was in 2015. Like, 2015 was a long time ago. Like, in football years, that's like dog years. He had 80 catches for 1,400 yards. And if you remember, and I know this is a long time ago, but that was a year that Bortles was the king of garbage time. He would always kind of in the fourth quarter when they're down 30, 40 points, that's when Allen Robinson was leading. So I really don't like the pick, like, at all. Somebody had to draft him. I know he's technically Chicago's number 1, but nobody there is a number 1. Trey Burton wasn't a number 1 tight end. Unfortunately, they have a great team. They're a good team, but nobody there. I mean, other than the running backs, Cohen and the kid they drafted, Montgomery, because they do like to run the ball a lot. I don't think any of those receivers are, even Andrew Miller. They're all great. They're good. They're a good team. Other than that, I'm kind of focusing on them. But then you took Aaron Rodgers. I was like, no beef. He's easily the number 2 or number 3. Depending Mahomes, Watson, Rodgers. You can put Rodgers. I mean, even in his worst year. Even in his worst year. I mean, and I don't want to say last year was his worst year, but one of his down years, considered a down year. He played all 16 games with a tear in his freaking knee. He had 25 touchdowns, 2 intos. You know how many quarterbacks would, like, give their left testicle to have that stat line. 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's amazing. With a bad knee, with a bad team. The team, it wasn't a good team last year. So we can only believe that Aaron Rodgers is gonna be better than that. And if better than that, you only threw two interceptions in a year. The floor is established clearly. You then took Marvin Jones Jr. and it's like there's guys here that I loved, and that wasn't one of them. He was hurt last year. He definitely had 2 years ago. He had 1,000-yard year. That's before Kenny Golladay stepping up. But Stafford also had a really bad year last year. So up until last year, Stafford was the most consistent guy. I think over 4,000 yards for like 5-6 years, which was unheard of. So there is space for Martin without Tate being there, because last year it was all three of them being there. There is space for him to be okay. And honestly, it was your fourth receiver, so I'm not gonna stress him. He was that's a decent pick. I'm not gonna bash it, right? You took Kenyon Drake, who I've never liked at all. He's even in Alabama, he wasn't like a workhorse. So he's been in the league. Damn, did I already know? I don't think I wrote it down, but he's never passed 1,000 yards overall. So receiving and running, he's never been a workhorse. Last year, he was technically the starter and didn't do much with it. Gore was getting more burn than him. He only had 900 total yards as the starter last year, which isn't horrible. But as somebody that had a couple of 200-yard games 2 years ago that we were all kind of fixated on, he definitely did not live up to it. That offense is definitely going to be trash this year as well. So I try to avoid suspect running backs on bad offenses, and that's definitely a really bad offense with a suspect running back. And Balaj, who's been hyped up to the ends, didn't have a great preseason, but before that, all the training camp stuff was Balaj. So, we'll see how that shakes out. Never liked him. Then you took David Njoku, who I wrote has a lot of talent, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. Add OBJ to that team. And last year, he wasn't consistent enough without OBJ. You're adding OBJ to that team. Once again, somebody had to take him, but right, it's not. And if I'm wrong, I see that you're on the chat. Tell me I'm wrong. You then took where we at with the 10th pick, 110th pick. You took Jared Goff. So here I just wrote why. You got one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league. You don't need another. You shouldn't. That's the thing. If you take one of those top 4 or 5, you don't need to take one. And if you do, it has to be towards the very end of the draft. I didn't draft one, I think, until round 15, and I got Ben Roethlisberger. You didn't need to take Goff. You already took one semi-early 6th, 7th round to take Jared Goff for what? That was just silly. Yes, he's okay. He's good. I'm not saying he's not good, but you don't need 2. What are you going to do with 2 quarterbacks when one of them is Aaron Rodgers? Unless it's like forcing you to have to trade one of them. Then you took Jordan Reed, who, I get you're covering your butt with Njoku, but he's had an insane amount of injuries and then concussions on top of that. So I don't ever root for somebody to not play, because I've drafted him plenty of times. Not this year, but I believe the hype on Jordan Reed. But there's an article I was gonna post on a chat. He's had 7 reported concussions in the league, in the NFL alone. That doesn't include college, high school. He's always been a bigger guy. Well, he started late in high school because he was a basketball player, a converted basketball player, but still. 7 reported concussions that the training staff knows. How many times do these guys not report anything to the training staff? That it happens all the time. So 7 reported. That's bro, dudes retire with less. And then all the other litany of injuries he's had, he's just kind of like, you cover your butt with Njoku, but still. Then you took Kenny Stills at the time of the draft. I was like, another, and like, I don't, but he got traded to the Texans. I love Watson. That offense will be better. He actually devalues, Kiki Kuti, and Fuller a little bit, because he is that type of receiver, like a big, a long threat, a big threat guy. But still, then you took Giovanni Bernard. I put the main, probably one of the top backups in the league, so it's not a bad pick. We've seen him whenever Mixon doesn't play, even before Mixon, whenever he got the opportunity, he was a solid dude. So it's a good, and especially in a PPR league, because he may be the third down back here and there. That's a great pick that you can use during bye weeks. And if anything happens to Mixon, you can throw him in your starting lineup happily. You took Kareem Hunt. Another, like, why, bro? Like, you were wasting picks at this point. I don't know if, like, this was the, maybe your first draft of the year and you were kind of getting the kinks out. But, bro, you're going to hold on to him for 8 weeks? Like, our bench is not that deep. That's almost like a wasted pick, in my opinion. You could have – he probably would have went undrafted, and then week 4 or 5, you could maybe pick him up. Like, if you hold him for 8 weeks, I'll be surprised. So it's like a wasted pick. You took the Patriots, D. I mean, I don't have a problem with the D. They're always around top 10. They lost a couple guys, but then signed the Seahawks. I should have wrote whatever. They signed the Thomas. They signed Thomas from the Seahawks, so they replaced their pass rush with him. I put, like, as a summary, and then you took Robbie Gould. You did have some discipline. Like, you took your kicker and your defense at the end of the draft, which I root on when I see it. You have good depth you have good depth, just players I don't like. So I put, players I don't like, and a lot of high risk early, high reward early. So there's a lot of space for you to, like, fall on your face. You don't have a lot of, like, guys that I'm like, okay, this, even if it's bad for this guy, their worst case scenario is still, where it can keep you above ground. Like Gurley, everything after, Gurley and Cooks to me were your best picks per se. Everything else was kind of like, yeah. So I gave it a C+. It wasn't the worst draft. It just wasn't, like, what I would consider, like, good. And I'm sorry that I'm coming down on you like that. But, it could have been better. But if you always active, you always make trades. So I don't see this being the end of your season ended at the draft day. All right. So 1 second, I'm thirsty. Cheers. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna move on to Team Lily. So Lily's team, Team Cheng, and then she had picked 10. So Lily, welcome to the league. I've done this for a couple years, so this is just a review. You took Julio Jones in the first round. So I'm not going to talk about today's news because I did this review before today's news, and Julio Jones at the time of the draft was an elite pick. Even if he was threatening the holdout, which he never publicly really did, I don't see this being something where he misses a lot of time. Even if he does, I'm doing a review of the draft. We can't kind of get caught up on, because even for Zeke, I thought he would sign. I didn't think the team would, like, let him not sign. So whatever. At the time of the draft, at the time I did the review, Julio Jones was a great pick at pick 10. So I put, only reason I rank him behind Hopkins and Thomas is because of his age, and it's because I'm a little bit of an ageist. If you've seen any of these before, but not enough that I'm knocking him out the first round. I just think Hopkins and Thomas has done amazing in 2 years, and then Hopkins has been consistent with horrible quarterbacks. And even now that he has Watson, we saw what he did last year was elite. So with Jones, I predicted positive regression, meaning that he would score touchdowns. The year before, for like 2 years in a row, he only had 3 touchdowns, which was ridiculous. Julio has led the league in yardage, and I think catches as well, close to like top 3 in catches both year or for a long time. But last year he finally got touchdowns, where it was the only thing missing from his game. He had 113 catches, 1,677 yards, 8 TDs. He's had 5 straight years of over 1,400 yards. Nobody else has done that. So pick 10, elite, great value. Then you took Travis Kelce. I wrote best tight end in the game. It's not even close. Last year we kind of were having the argument about Gronk, and even then it wasn't really much of an argument. I wrote if Tyreek Hill misses any time, which is still, it's the NFL said everything is cool, but we'll see. But even if not, he's had over 1,000 yards for 3 straight years, has played at least 15 games in 5 or 6 years. And the year he didn't, I think it was his rookie year. So for a tight end, I think he's 28, 29, so he's a little bit, but still, he's been the model of consistency. I guess he takes really good care of his body. And yeah, football is a violent sport, but he's managed to avoid any difficult injuries like ACLs, things like that are hard to recover from. He's never even he's not missed a game, which is amazing. So last year, 103 catches, 1,300 yards. I may have said this already. Oh, I didn't say this part about 10 touchdowns, which was beast. Then, so first 2 picks, I don't like taking a tight end that early, but if you're going to take the one Kelce, you're fine. Then you took Devontae Freeman. So the line is still a top 5, top 10 offensive line in the game. So I know he had a bad year last year with injuries, which is kind of the risk you take. But he has been the number 1 running back in the league before. So he has the talent, and it's not so far removed that we're thinking, oh, it was 10 years ago. Let me see. 2016 and 2017 were 2015, 2016. He was a top fantasy option in the league. 2017 was the first year that he dealt with injuries, but still had over 1,000 yards that year. With no Coleman and just Ito Smith, I think we haven't heard anything about him being injured. He's coming into the season full go. I think he returns to 2016, 2015 version of Devontae Freeman. So that was your 3rd pick in the pick 34. Then you went your 4th round pick was Mark Ingram. I like him a lot, man. He's never had the Saints didn't work him into the ground. He was never the bell cow. He's older, but I wrote he's older, but has fresh legs weirdly. I think the Ravens are gonna run a lot. And even if Justice Hill gets a lot of burn and a lot of time, I think he's going to be he'll get you your 1,000 yards. And maybe even, 1,200, 1,300 combined rushing and receiving yards. He has that potential because he's never not been a good receiver as well. It's not like he's only going to run the ball and not get opportunities to catch the ball as well. Then you took the first pick that I didn't love. Because your first 4, I thought were solid picks. You had your 2 running backs, your 1 elite receiver, your tight end. You had the best tight end, but here's Mike Williams from the San Diego. I was gonna say San Diego, the Los Angeles Chargers. He's all right. I usually like upside guys. He was a young dude last year and had 10 touchdowns last year. So I think he's only 23, 24. So I usually don't hate on guys that young. This year I felt like he was sneaking in earlier than I was comfortable taking him, but he definitely has the potential without Tyrell Williams being there. There's without Melvin Gordon, if Melvin Gordon misses a lot of time, there's a lot of targets there to kind of be spread around that I think Mike Williams can kind of take a hold of. And he's not going to have the 10 touchdowns again. But if he goes from, I think he only had like 600-700 yards last year. If he goes from that to 900 and 5 touchdowns, that's not a bad pick. And if he does anything over 1,000, and with the touchdowns coming down to like 5, but anything over 1,000, I think at this value in the 5th round is solid as your second receiver. That's good value. Then you took Matt Ryan, which like we kind of, I don't know if it came down on you, but we kind of like, he's been silently a very consistent. He's been top 5 the last 3 or 4 years. Top 5 quarterback in the league. He had 1 MVP year, right? You could have waited. That's kind of the only thing that I can say there is that I don't see him as Aaron Rodgers, Watson, and Mahomes. Like, he's definitely, to me, he's not in that category. He's definitely, to me, the next set of guys. So Cam Newton, Big Ben, that next set of like even Murray, where people are taking Murray and stuff. Like, to me, he was like, you could have waited a little bit, but you went out and got yourself a top 5 potential quarterback who has been there consistently the last couple of years. So I can't bash it too much. Just that because you took a tight end so early, like taking him in the 2nd round, that's the only thing that was kind of like, if you would have just built up a little bit of depth, that would have been, to me, a little bit of better value in that position. Then you took Curtis Samuel. I was like, the hype train is going choo 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 for the dude, man. Like, everybody is on ESPN, at least, is hyping this boy up. I think there's nothing but potential for him. DJ Moore and him, Cam Newton, they had to shut him down last year with the bad shoulder. If he can play 16 games, he was on pace to throw more yards than he has ever thrown. He had his first like elite quarterback season. It wasn't just based on his running ability last year that he was succeeding. Even with a bad shoulder, that's the other thing. He wasn't making all of the throws, but he completed like 62% or 63%, which was the highest percentage he had ever completed. So there's definitely room for that offense to get better. And Curtis Samuel is DJ Moore's age. Like, they're the same age. So it's very easy that he can step up and make waves in the league. So no issue. And the Panthers have been, all the highlights of this offseason have been of Curtis Samuel going crazy. Then you took Royce Freeman with your 8th pick in the 87th pick of the draft. I don't like Freeman just because he burned everybody last year. Like, I had this high hopes for him. Lindsey kind of took that job and ran with it. There is a new coaching staff there. He was was he a 1st round, 2nd round? He was an early draft pick last year of the Broncos. So there's definitely space for him to step up. I just don't know he has the talent to do it. That team is also going to be – that team is very questionable to me. They can be decent. I don't see them being good, but they can definitely be a decent squad. You could have – there were other picks there that I would have preferred, but I see why you took Royce Freeman. You're building depth, and I appreciate somebody running back, receiver, like building that depth there. Then you took Dante Moncrief. Like, I like the pick. I've been taking James Washington wherever I could, but Dante Moncrief has shown that he can play. He's only 25, 26. That team, once again, I'll bring up the stat, 160 targets from Antonio Brown alone that they're replacing. Le'Veon as well. I mean, granted, Le'Veon wasn't there last year, but they're replacing targets in that offense, and there's nothing but opportunities for people to step in. Then you took Tyrell Williams, who in super hindsight was at the time I put will be a good bye week fill-in who can hit the home run. He can hit the big play. That's what he was known for. 50-yard reception, touchdowns. In Oakland in a bad offense, and then he did it again in San Diego as well. So I'm sorry, he did it in San Diego. Now he's in Oakland, but that's what he was doing out there: 50, 60-yard catches. Without Antonio Brown, maybe a good and a bad thing because there's more targets in that lineup if he doesn't play. I think if Brown is there, he takes the attention off of Williams. So I like the pick before the Brown news that he might miss time. It's still a good pick. If he doesn't play, then he's gonna be like the number one guy in that offense, which it can't hurt, right? Then you took Ronald Jones. Then you took a couple guys: Tony Pollard, Ronald Jones. On that turn, 11-12. Ronald Jones is another young guy, lottery ticket that I said this last year and I'll kind of restate it. Definitely has the talent at USC. I don't know if the playbook was just simpler. Of course, maybe it was as a college playbook, but at USC he was a elite talent. He was the youngest guy in the league last year. I think last year what we were hearing in the preseason was that he wasn't picking up the playbook. And I made the comment that, maybe he's the most athletic, talented, physically skilled dude. He just maybe, the NFL is hard. It's like a graduate class. Like, imagine with some of these playbooks, right? Some of them are very simple. But you graduate from college to get your master's and you don't have the intellect to get your PhD. And those playbooks sometimes are not easy for people to adapt to. And I think I've never seen that he's not quick or that he's not elusive. It's just, it's almost like he doesn't hit the holes. Like he doesn't know when the plays are developing for him, which is a strange thing for somebody that's that elite physically. So, but still, I'm wasting a lot of time on him. Lottery tickets. Tony Pollard, before yesterday, looked like the steal of the draft. So the end of your draft was grade A. Like I really thought towards the end you took the Texans D, which you may have dropped. They're okay. Like they've lost a lot of talent as well because they let Jadeveon Clowney go. Before that, I thought they were a good team. So you guys talking on the group chat is gonna throw me off. I'm on Angel. He called him a contrarian. Here RB games. Okay. But yeah, if you guys wanna like chat, put it on the YouTube thing just so that I can kind of follow along without having to switch screens and stuff. But and then let's finish this draft out. You took Jake Elliott, big leg. Philly's a good team. Jameis Winston, just to kind of not to harp on it, but look how late you got Jameis Winston, who has nothing but upside compared to Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is great, but you could have had a late, there was talent late. That's all that kind of highlight that. Then you took Malcolm Brown, another like lottery ticket pick that if he plays and he plays well, rookie coming into the league with a lot of hype, you can kind of thrive. So I gave your draft a B-/B. Like it has potential to kind of you're definitely like on the cusp of there was like 4 or 5. Like it was as I get through this, it was hard to kind of to judge teams because there's so much parity in the league this year. So there was maybe 4 or 5 teams that got similar grades to this. But still doesn't negate the fact that you had a solid draft. I liked the early picks. There was some that even in some of the questionable picks I understood. I don't necessarily like them, but I understood why you made those picks. And then late, I thought you definitely did your research and you were picking guys that have crazy upside, and that's how you do it late in the draft. So B-/B, like 82.7 or something like that. And then 1 second. So I'm up to pick 9, Darwinson, Team Valdez. He was hyping it up. I think Antonio hyped it up, but after I did kind of the review, I understood. So pick 9, you took Devontae Adams. I personally don't like him that much, but I can't. What's the word I'm saying? I can't downplay the talent, right? I can't downplay the production. Actually, he he's Rodgers' top option, and anybody that's Rodgers' top option is gonna definitely be amazing. Um, Wait, so what's going on here? Okay. Somebody tell Brandon to stop chatting in the group, man. It's throwing me off. The So take a step back. Devontae Adams. So yeah. So I don't like him, but it's Rodgers' top option. And like I said last year, Jordy Nelson is a bum without Rodgers. He makes average guys elite, just like Andrew Luck. So if as long as Rodgers is healthy, Devontae Adams is going to be amazing. He's scored over 10 touchdowns the last 3 years. Nobody else has done that. The only guy that's close is DeAndre Hopkins, who has 2 years of 10 or more touchdowns in a year for a receiver, which is great. I mean, Antonio Brown is the other guy that I think had 2 out of the 3 years, not consecutive, but 2 out of the 3 years he's had over 10 touchdowns. Then you took James Conner, first round talent. There were drafts where he was taken early, first round, late first round. I think he keeps the workload. And, I wrote, even if he only keeps 90% of the workload, he'll still be worth the value where you got him. So last year he rushed the ball 215 times, had 973 yards, 12 touchdowns. Then he had 55 catches, 497 yards, and only 1 touchdown through the air. But what's that? That's close to 1,500 yards. I'm not up to you, G. You gotta wait for your team. So Connor, right? So even if he only has 90% of that, let's just say he gets 1,200 yards combined or 1,300 yards combined, that's still an elite option. So that's a great pick there. Then you took Julian Edelman. I don't like him. This is probably the worst pick that you made in my definition of worst picks, just people I was staying away from. But he's decent, man. Like, he's consistent. Once again, Brady's top pick, as long as he's healthy, especially in a PPR league, he's going to give you value. So the part of the reasons I don't like him, though, so he's 33 years old. He missed all of 2017. He played 12 games last year because he missed time for PEDs. He is Brady's most trusted kind of option, but has he been juicing this whole time? Is that what made him good? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes these guys fall off a cliff. They drafted Nikhil Hill. They have Josh Gordon this year, and I know Nikhil Hill is out or on the IR now. But I think they were also trying to move past only having Edelman as the top option there. And we'll see. But still, of all your picks, and you're gonna see you had a solid draft. So I'm not gonna kind of harp on that. But that was the one that I don't like at all. Then you took Zach Ertz in the fourth round, pick 40, which was value. Like, that was you've historically just taken the best guys available during drafts, and this is another example of that. Like, I think Zach Ertz, 40th pick in the fourth round, 40th pick was amazing. He had 116 catches last year, 1,163 yards, 8 touchdowns. Bro, even if that comes down, let's say 90%, right? Because a lot of guys had elite years last year. Let's just say they regress a little bit. That's still what? 90 catches, close to 1,000 yards, 6 or 7 touchdowns. Like, even if he regresses backwards, he's still an elite talent. And the thing is, I said this last year, and I'll say it again: the Eagles, the receiving core there is Ertz, and then a bunch of ants. They have a lot of running back talent, but I don't see, excuse me, I don't see the options for Wentz that way. I called it last year, but I definitely believe that Ertz will still have barring injury, right? Because that's the thing we can't plan for. But he's also been semi-consistent there for the last 2 or 3 years as well. Then you took Tyler Boyd, 5th pick in the 57th overall. Bro, that's a solid number 3 receiver, like to add to your team. Had over 1,000 yards last year. No AJ for a couple of weeks. Maybe, it could go 6 weeks without AJ. Right now, he's the only receiving option. Yes, John Ross is there. They have another kid that, like these guys that have never done it, that have been around for a couple of years, that are still young, that are talented. But Tyler Boyd has done it. Tyler Boyd has shown that he can be the number 1 option on that team. And, even when AJ comes back, he's still going to demand targets in that offense. So to get him in the 5th round, I think those are the guys that I value when you're getting them in the 5th round. Like you got him perfect. Then you took Tariq Cohen in the 64th pick. Bro, for PPR, that's a solid pick. Your next 2 picks, actually. You took Tevin Coleman and Tariq Cohen. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even – Coleman can be the starter. Him and Breida are kind of battling out. But that team doesn't – even if it's a committee team, then what's the coach's name? Shanahan. Yeah, when he was in Atlanta, Coleman was a good – he was the best number 2 running back in the league behind Freeman. So those 2 or 3 years that he was behind Freeman and the coach was there, you had he was signed to be the top guy. With McKinnon hurt, and I think he's on the IR again, he might need surgery. It's just him and Breida really that are going to be battling it out. That's a great pick. Tariq Cohen, another PPR monster. And once again, even if they come back to life, there's a solid floor with a lot of these guys coming back from last year. Then you took Cam Newton, 8th pick, 80th overall. I was like, excellent start to your drive. You can't this is this should be a model for a lot of other people. Cam, in that 8th to 10th round of the draft, there was a lot of guys that I thought, from 6 to 10, which were like elite options that could help anybody. Then you took Cortland Sutton, pick 105. Good upside guy. He was a top pick last year. He came into that offense that the quarterback play was horrible last year. Hopefully they step up there. Hopefully it's stepped up a little bit that's the thing. Flacco has never been, they kind of go from a bum to like at least a respectable quarterback, I guess, from bum to like at least a starting level quarterback. But there's still a lot of space for him to grow. So when you're picking a pick at 100, that's what you want. A guy that could be the number 1 option. Emmanuel Sanders is a little bit old. Cortland Sutton was a great pick there. Then you took Jamison Crowder, who I had to kind of look up because I've not that I haven't liked him. It's just he's kind of been wasting away in Washington. But he's only 25, bro. I feel like he's been around forever. And there's a lot of space for that offense to take steps up. They have Anderson. What's the other guy's name that tore his ACL last year? It'll come to me a little bit later. But Crowder kind of jumps into like the slot guy in an offense with Le'Veon now that can take a couple steps up. Like it's not going to be a great offense, but at least mid-pack. And mid-pack slot receiver can be a pretty good option for a team. And you got him this late. Then you took Jalen Samuels, who I wrote, you got your own handcuff. Smart. Do I have to even say anything else? If anything happens to Connor, you got if I'm ranking, I probably should have ranked it before this thing, but like the top 5 or 6 backups, handcuffs, you got a great handcuff there that's going to help you, moving forward. You took Mark Andrews. I put solid upside tight end. You took Fairbairn, the kicker from the Texans, good kicker. Then you took AJ Brown, rookie from Ole Miss. I think he was a first-round pick. He might have been, or a first or second-round pick. Took the Ravens D, which I don't this year. I don't think they're gonna be great, but that's still okay. And you took Chris Thompson in a PPR league. You may have dropped him. I'm not 100. I feel like I saw him as a free agent, but if you did it at the time of the draft, that was a great pick. So the review of the draft, you took best player available most of the time, and you took a lot of high upside guys late. To me, the best value pick was Jamison Crowder and Samuels, just because what they can do, at the space that you got them. I don't think they're going to be amazing, but if anything were to happen to Connor or anything, like they kind of slipped and fell to you, and you made sure to lock them in. Your worst pick, Edelman. But yeah, I think everything around that was very solid. So I did give you a A/A-, and kind of playing around with those two. But yeah, it was one of the better drafts that I had to go over and grade. Excuse me. So I'm up to Brandon. I don't know if Brandon's still on the chat. I know he was saying that he was a little bit behind with it. But yeah, so Brandon had Team Chubby Chasers. I love the name. And he had pick 8. So he took Le'Veon Bell with his 8th pick. I wrote, has something to prove. Ty Montgomery is there, but I think Le'Veon's floor could be 1,500 to 1,600 yards. Watch the game. Let me know when it's my turn. Okay, flare. Okay, cool. So yeah, I understand the game like just started. I don't have any plans tonight, so I can kind of like blow through this. You guys can just have, I don't know, me in the background. Thank you for the people that are kind of sticking through with it. Have me in the background or have the game in the background, whatever you got to do. Thank you for those that are still kind of rocking with me. I just want to get this done. I don't want to kind of have to break this up into parts. But okay, Brandon, you took Le'Veon Bell. I said has something to prove. 1,500 to 1,600 yard floor if he plays. As long as he plays, I think he can be elite. Then you took Nick Chubb. I wrote first round talent. You got him at the 17th pick. He had an amazing rookie year once he got the job last year. I think he definitely steps up. And even if it's just for the first 8 games, he could be the top 2 or 3 running back in the league. And to get that talent at not near the end, but like late second round, I thought was great. Well, mid second round, I'm sorry. But I thought he was a first round talent. So that's why I'm saying that. Then you took Josh Jacobs. So I don't know if you were trying to because I like rookies and stuff. I don't know that I think that I believe in him as much as the Raiders have kind of hyped him up to be. He wasn't the top guy in Alabama, and granted, Alabama is semi-pros, right? It's the next tier to the pros, but if you're not cracking the starting lineup in college, it kind of gives me a little bit to pause. If you weren't the best guy in your school, yeah, he killed it in the combine, and he seems to be an all-around back. Can catch the ball, can run the ball, can pass block, which is why he got really good grades. I don't know if his body can keep up with the work. And I don't know if that team is going to be any good, right? If Antonio Brown doesn't play, that offense can be trash. I don't even know, that line may not be worth anything. So it's like there's question marks there. And, so I'll kind of move on, but he's somebody that hopefully his floor is a 3rd round. Like where you drafted him, there's a lot of suspect a little bit. Then you took Robert Woods, who I wrote solid. With Cooper Kupp, the only thing is that with Cooper Kupp back in the lineup, he's definitely not going to meet His oh shoot. He's definitely not going to be able to meet that value. Um, I'm sorry, you see in the face of somebody that forgot to do something, but he's not going to be able to keep up with that value that he had there for the third round. Well, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Woods. I think that last year he had over 1,200 yards or 1,100 yards, close to 100 catches without Cooper Cup being there. That kind of goes down a little bit, but he still has a solid floor. That team is going to throw it a lot. I think all of those guys will have between 900 and 1,000 yards. So no matter what, that's a solid like base. And if any of those other guys get hurt or miss any time, then Woods' stock goes up, and whoever's left kind of has their value automatically goes up, just the way it did last year when Cooper Cup wasn't there. Then you took Patrick Mahomes, who at the time of the draft felt like he fell so late, because in most of the mock drafts that we were doing, in the other drafts that I had, he was going fairly early, second, third round. Like I even saw him going in the first round a couple times. The next pick that you had was Evan Ingram. Oh, good pick. At this point, you only have the one receiver. But the thing with Ingram is he's also like concussions, bro. He hasn't been able to play. He's been in the league just 2 years and hasn't been able to hold up. Yes, without OBJ there, you assume that the targets go up for him. You assume that he'll be able to kind of that Eli doesn't throw the ball deep anymore. So he's going to have to kind of rely on these intermediate routes that tight ends thrive in, that tight ends, really succeed in a lot. Let me see. Then you took Fuller. I enjoy Fuller. I think Fuller is a very high upside guy. Before the Stills pickup, I was much higher on Fuller. So at the time of the draft, I was envious that you got Fuller there. In our league, I don't know if you guys looked at the settings, but there is a little bit of a bonus for over 50-yard touchdowns. I think it's over 50 yards. So anything over 50-yard catches, completions, and Fuller is a beast. If he's healthy, him and Watson have a special connection. And I'm showing my Notre Dame bias, but if you remember, the times he's been healthy, he's been a top 20 receiver in the league. So every game that he has played, he scored. I think he has over like 15 touchdowns in only 2 years and hasn't played full years. So I mean, I'll definitely stat check myself at that because it might not be 15, but I know it's at least 10 in 2 years without playing a lot of time. Like he's only played maybe half the year in both seasons. If he can stay healthy, that's the thing with anybody. But if he stays healthy, that's a great threat. That's a beast, amazing value that you get there. Thing is, if he does it, then that's kind of where to be your second receiver, it's like a hit or miss. Then you took Sammy Watkins. I put good value. Sammy Watkins at pick 89, 8th round. He's still the second receiver, third option if you think Kelsey, Hill, Watkins, who's always been kind of on the cusp, like of being a great player. In Buffalo, he was great. Then, I think he's another guy that if he can just stay healthy, would be a good receiver, like a top, what you want to say, 25, maybe 12, 20, 25. Like he can be a great receiver in the league. So we'll move on from that. Then you took Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I put high upside, man. Like I'm not mad at him and the value that you get there. That's your 104th pick. First 6 picks, you only took one receiver. However, I thought you made up for it. That was kind of the feedback that I would give you there. The receivers that you took weren't great, but have pretty good upside. And I think you kind of, where last year I didn't like how you made up for it. This year I don't think it was terrible. Like, it's still, would I draft this way? No. Like, and I don't. Like, you'll see in my drafts, I try to get as value early on with elite at multiple positions. So if I could get an elite running back and then elite receiver, then I'll do that. But like at least 1 and 1, and then you can go with high upside or number 2s or number 3s. You don't have a number 1 option there. That's kind of the thing. Woods is a great number 2. Fuller is a number 2 that will have number 1 weeks. Watkins is a number 2 that will have like number 5. Like he won't be even, like he'll be the 100th receiver that week, and then there'll be weeks where he's the number 10, number 5 receiver that week. So like Watkins is like a yo-yo pretty much. There's not consistency. And then Marquez Scantling, there's upside. He can become the number 2 option. He can become the number 3 option, and even that is valuable in the Packer offense. Then you took Kalen Ballage, who I wrote could be the guy. Could 100% be the guy. Then you took Darren Waller, who I only wrote yuck because he's a good pick, but you took him at pick 128 when I don't think anybody would have taken him there, and that was your second tight end. So once again, it's just like like draft theory, right? If you take a quarterback top 5 rounds, you don't take a backup. If you take a tight end top 5, 6 rounds, then you got somebody that's an elite option. You don't need a backup. Granted, he was hyped. They were hyping him up in the Hard Knocks show. So I get why you take him, and maybe you could have waited a little bit. But having 2 tight ends when one of them is supposed to be an elite guy, like you don't take – yes, I have my beef with Evans, but you don't take him that early if you don't want him on your team. So, but still, overall, I think he does have upside. And if anybody wants Evans, maybe you can trade out Evans and keep Waller as your main guy. Then you took Cole Beasley, good PPR option. I mean, the Bills, they're going to have to throw it, right? And Allen may feel comfortable with a good slot guy that is consistent from the slot. So PPR, still, your receivers are kind of meh, but not horrible. Then you took Will Lutz. Then you took the Bills defense, Albert Wilson and Devin Funchess. How do I say this? I like the receivers you took. It's not like last year where I didn't like them at all. And the running back like upside that you got is great. So like this overall, I gave your team a B-. And I said this earlier that there was like 5 teams that I gave B-minuses to because I thought they can compete and like kind of keep the like be on that cusp of the playoffs. But like there wasn't a lot dividing those teams up. There's a lot like I think Angel did the opposite of you in like a weird way. So he took receivers early, and then his running backs are kind of suspect but with high upside. You then took running backs early, and then your receivers were kind of like not any one of them was elite or great, but just like solid number 2 guys. And it wasn't just you 2 guys. I mean, as I kind of go through this draft, you'll see that not a lot, but it just felt like strategy I just don't normally use were it's just strategy I don't normally use on kind of like the way I draft. I want to get some type of balance early on. And whether that's just one elite at receiver and then the rest do whatever, or one elite at running back, just kind of like that's how I balance my teams out. But I gave you a B-. You'll be in contention. You'll be towards the back end. And I mean, any one of these teams is a trade away or one of their lottery tickets from hitting Singletary, for instance, from being like a good contending team. So B- for you, Brandon, which is better than last year though. So Let me see. Renee was the 7th pick. His team is what? No more luck. And then, excuse me. I gotta get through these quicker. Yeah. Hour 15. All right, guys. So Michael Thomas was his number 1 pick at number 7. So some people thought that was a reach. I did not. I think I may have said this earlier. Let me arrange this. Michael Thomas to me is number 1 or 2 receiver in the league. I love Michael Thomas. He had 125 receptions last year, 1,405 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's been in the league 3 years in a row. Well, I mean, only 3 years, and he's had over 1,000 yards every single year. He's over 90 catches each one of those years, and then over the last 2, he's had over 100. So, I mean, he's only 23 or 24. Beast. Straight up beast. Then he took Antonio Brown. Once again, at the time of the draft, at the time I was even doing this review, he was going to play. Yeah, there was a lot of controversy going around him. But I think he's a solid dude. How do I say this? He has been a top 5 guy for so long that taking him towards the end of the second round or mid to late second round, I think there's a great value. I was telling you guys earlier today that I was debating him over Evans in my other league, and it was I went with Evans, but it's not because I didn't think Antonio Brown was worth the pick there. It's just kind of like the clock ran out, and the decision was made for me. I said this earlier. I think over 10 touchdowns, 3 out of the last 4 years, something ridiculous as a receiver. And still, if he plays, can make any offense dangerous. Then you took Sony Michel, solid pick, solid running back. He had over 1,000 yards last year. It's gonna push 10 touchdowns easily because the Patriots like to run the ball when they're close. We have then. So yeah, you have your first running backs being Sony Michel. I got no problem with. Then you took Derrick Henry, who burned me. I have my reserve against him, but I said he's a solid running back, but just not for PPR. I think that's something that we don't always take into consideration. Then I think he could have fell because he's not a PPR threat like that. Now, if they feed him the rock like they did from game 10, our playoffs pretty much from 10 to week 17, if they feed him the ball, then Derrick Henry is a beast. If they give him 20 carries again, because the thing about Derrick Henry that we saw the playoffs, not last year, but 2 years ago, was that he beats a team down. He's a big 6'1", 6'2", 230. He's a big dude that beats defenders down. So yeah, in the first quarter, he may be only averaging 2 yards per carry. But by the end of the game, he'll have his 100 yards, his 120 yards, and a touchdown. As long as they feed him. He's not a guy that, in limited touches is going to do a lot. He needs 15 to 20 carries minimum to kind of be what he was towards the end of last year. So still, I don't love him, but in the 4th round, being your second running back, I don't think that's a bad pick. Then you took Landry, which was the first pick that I was like, nah, I don't like. Even though it's a PPR league, there's gonna be a lot of mouths to feed in Cleveland. Excuse me. The last year he was bum juice. That's the thing. He wasn't the Landry from the Dolphins. He didn't even come close to what the Landry from the Dolphins. The only upside is that he can potentially, because OBJ is taking the pressure off of him, so taking the pressure off of him being the number 1 receiver, being, having the number 1 cornerback on him, having the defense focus on him as the top option, OBJ can kind of help him just be a slot guy that can kind of just get open because not the best defenders aren't on him. So there could be that as well as kind of a jumping off thing. So I do see where there's hidden value in him. I just don't think I like him as the 55th pick overall. You then took Drew Brees at 66 in your 6th round. I don't know that I like that either. I'm not gonna like he was falling, bro. Drew Brees 40, 41. That team wants to run the ball. Kamara, Murray, they want to run the ball. So I mean, granted, I can't say I love Michael Thomas and then not think that Drew Brees is going to be all right, but I just think that early on, I don't think he could have fell to like the 10th round, 9th round. I didn't see him going that early. He was going in the hundreds. And granted, ADP is not the end all be all. It's just like I'm gonna keep bringing this up. I took Ben Roethlisberger the second to last round of the draft, and he's probably the 8th or 7th ranked quarterback. And if you're doing rankings, kind of right now as of today, so there was value. This did Tom Brady even get drafted? Like there's so much value later on. I'm sure. I took Trubisky off the free agency. Like there's a lot of value with quarterbacks that you could have gotten later on. But I'll kind of move on. Then you took Vance McDonald with the 79th pick. I wrote after the top 6, he is the next level, like the next tier of tight end. So him, Hooper, I will put Cook in that kind of range as well. Well, yeah, like because it's Ertz, Kelsey, and who am I missing? I'm missing a top guy. And then it's Hunter Henry, OJ Howard. Wow, I'm blanking out on guys. I'm drinking too much. There's 6 guys before him. And then Vance McDonald was kind of the next guy. So I don't think that's a bad pick where you took him. Then you took Dante Pettis, who I'm like, there's a lot of people there, but somebody has to step up. So it's not a bad pick. At that point, that's your 4th receiver. So, bro, that's not a bad pick for your 4th receiver. There's a lot of upside. Before the preseason, he was the guy that everybody was hyping up. So, there's that. Then you took Jordan Howard. I don't like him that much. Hopefully, ideally, in a perfect world, in that Eagle offense, he's the Garrett Blount. He gets 10 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns because they bring him in when they're close to scoring, and he's the guy that kind of, gets those touchdowns. Let me just see. And then another guy that you took that in a PPR league, his value is kind of decreased. So the only value he has is if he scores a lot of touchdowns in the league. Then you took DK Metcalf. His value is high touchdown potential. He's a big dude, was an elite receiver in college. Seattle doesn't have a lot of options on that team. Lockett and who else? You get what I'm saying? So Metcalf can definitely step into that starting role and be a great, solid pick. So, when I say before, I think I was saying that I didn't like Ari's team because of those late round picks. This is what I mean. There's value late where you just kind of these lottery picks. There's a lot of unknown, but even if he hits and it's only, let's just say, 70 catches, 60 catches, 600 yards, 700 yards, but 5 to 10 touchdowns. Bro, that's for the 11th round. You understand? Like that's ideally that's what you're getting. Even from these known commodities, right, that are there. I look crazy. These known commodities that are that are in and out. Sanu's. I hate Sanu, right? But people like to drive because Sanu is what Sanu is, right? You're gonna get to like 50 catches, like 500 to 600 yards, like 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. But at least you know that you can consistently throw them in a bye week, for instance, or in a week where maybe you got hit by an injury bug and you're starting a weird lineup. Sanu's a guy that, okay, I know I'll get at least 5 to 6 points, and now with PPR close to 10, not even like 8 points, maybe 7 points a week. But the thing about dudes like DK Metcalf, and then you took Marquise Brown, who was a first-round pick from Oklahoma, who's a playmaker. Elite. Love them. DK Metcalf, Marquise Brown, solid, bro. So you took the Rams defense, you took Harrison Butker, and then you drafted Tom Brady. I knew Tom Brady, but towards the very end, you took Greg Olsen and Nelson Aguilar. I don't like Olsen or Aguilar, to be honest with you. But did you have a tight end? Yeah, you have Vance McDonald. That's the thing. If you have Vance McDonald, that's another thing. Like, I don't think you needed a backup. There's good tight ends that are available. So this was way better than the last 2 years, though. So like, and not to be, I know that might be sounding like a sarcasm, but nah, you were more disciplined this year, and you had a solid draft. So I said that there was like 10 teams that had like B minuses. I gave you a C+/B minus just because some of the earlier picks, like Derrick Henry, Landry, Drew Brees, I didn't love, but they're good, like okay picks, right? And then like, so that's the only reason I didn't run to the gauntlet and cheer on your team. There was some picks that I was just like, but still not because personal opinion, not because they're not liked, or not ranked in good play. Like Derrick Henry, you took him where Derrick Henry was going. Landry, I thought you took him a little bit early, but he wasn't like a reach either. Maybe like a round earlier. Drew Brees, a couple rounds, but I get like none of this was so like none of the reaches, quote unquote, that I did were so bad that I'm like, oh, this is atrocious. It was just like my preference is that I don't like him, but I get why you took him. And then some of those late Metcalf, Marquise Brown, I think the upside is incredible. So I gave it a C+/B minus. All right. So I'm on one. Check out my Johnson, which is I love clever names. I'm sorry that I don't got the energy to like giggle with y'all, but that was a dope name. And he had the 6th pick, so we're working our way down. I don't know if Juan's on because he was on it earlier. So I mean, I'll start here. He took David Johnson with the 6th pick. Not one of my favorite picks, but it's just the team is bad. That's really like, and the team can definitely step up, but I got to give him his credit. Even in a terrible year for the team last year, no quarterback, no offensive line, nothing that you would say this was a good note on the 2018 season. They were terrible. Even in a horrible year, he was solid. Had 1,400 total yards, 940 running yards, 446 receiving, and he had 10 total touchdowns. That's in a bad year. So, I mean, ideally, you have Kyler Murray. They drafted three receivers? Yeah, it was Keyshawn, the other kid. They have kids all over the place running around. Then they have Christian Kirk. They have Larry Fitz. This year they have to take a step up. Now that offensive line is still not, it's not the Colts line, right? It's not the Atlanta line. It's not even the Seattle Seahawks line, which has been like historically bad over the last couple of years. It's really, really bad. That's the one thing that hopefully, with the years moving on, the same way the Colts did, they got to just start piling up first, second round offensive linemen. But the offense is going to be better. All that to say that they're going to move the ball, even if you don't believe in that coach, because, college coaches that are supposed masterminds, look at Kelly from Oregon. They don't always thrive in the NFL, but the up tempo is going to help. Having a decent quarterback, he's going to, barring injury, he's gonna surpass those numbers and might go crazy with the touchdowns because he's the one that gets the rock when they're close in. Then you took Joe Mixon, a top guy, a 3-down back, even on a bad offense last year, had solid numbers. We can say that the offense may be similar because they didn't do much to kind of upgrade that offense. I'm sorry that I get distracted so easily. I'm sipping on whiskey. So whiskey playing on the rocks. The rocks already melted. But Mixon is still a top guy, an elite talent. You got him late second round. I keep saying late, but like back end of the second round with the 19th pick. I think solid value, and you don't have any concern that he loses the job or anything silly like that. Then you took Melvin Gordon. So at the time of the draft, this was a really good pick. Today we can kind of, because of the news that they don't want to sign him, blah, 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 that they're not going to negotiate with him. He's still, even if he only plays 8 games, for those 8 games, you're going to have an elite talent. So I think knowing what we know, I still think that he gets signed or something happens. A trade happens before the trade deadline. I understand why you wouldn't draft him today because you're overexposed to him, Juan, because this is not the only league that you have him in. But I don't. So my grade on your team kind of varies slightly because I think minus Gordon, you got a grade, and then with if he plays at all this year, you have a different grade. So that's kind of the difference. However, and this is where I think you kind of made up for the fact that you went with 3 straight running backs to start the draft. I wrote Brandon should have did this because I think you took Tyler Lockett, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, and Corey Davis. 3 out of those 4 are like supposed to be the top guy. So Lockett, Moore, and Davis supposed to be the top guy. Now Davis, you can kind of, because Mariota's so bad that you can he kind of loses a little bit of steam because he was a first round pick. What was it, 4 years ago, and he's never really lived up to that first round draft capital that they spent on him. But it's because Mariota hasn't stayed healthy, and then over the last couple of years, it's almost like he's deteriorating. Like we saw him in Oregon. I saw him in Oregon. I was hyped for him coming out of college. It was him and Winston, and even that first year, he was okay. Like he was at least making the passes. He didn't stay when he got hurt. That's when he kind of like his play would kind of falter. But last year, he looked like he was lost. Like he couldn't make basic open. He wasn't finding open receivers, and he just took a really big step backwards, which is weird for a guy going into his 3rd or 4th year, which it was. Like this is his final year on his contract. So, hopefully, he can step up. Thus, Corey Davis's value goes up because he's no doubt the number 1 receiver there. It's just can Mariota kind of figure it out. But still, so Tyler Lockett's the clear number 1. DJ Moore 1A, or you can kind of argue if him and Samuels are going to kind of battle it out. But last year he was the guy. Then Calvin Ridley, who I personally love. Last year I was slurping. I was the lead of the Calvin Ridley bandwagon. I predicted that because of him, Julio Jones would score more touchdowns because he wouldn't be the focus of defenses in the red zone. And I wasn't wrong. Julio's touchdowns went up, and then Ridley had a beast. What was it, 10 touchdowns last year, 9 touchdowns last year as a rookie? I said that the way I saw Ridley last year, and I think the progression is going to be when what's his name? White. When Julio came in, and it was White that was there. Was it White? What's his name? The receiver that was there that we all loved. And then Julio kind of was I'm here, hey, I'm the rookie. And then by his 2nd, 3rd year, Julio had overtaken Roddy White. Yes, it was White. But Roddy White was, if y'all remember, Roddy White was the guy for 4 to 5 years. It was Roddy White that was the main man there. Then Julio came in and took over because the talent kind of the age and then the talent both kind of happened at the same time. And I think I legitimately think that this is the Ridley is gonna start taking that transition, and they'll both be number one options, I think. So all that to say that I think you made up for not taking a receiver with early by taking these guys that are later round number ones that still have pretty good floors and high upside. Then you took Jared Cook, who I don't love, but he's on the Saints. It doesn't. I get why he was right there, and I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Breeze has had good relationships with his tight ends. There have been times Jimmy Graham, he's made bums. What's the guy that went to the Patriots a couple years ago? That was old and washed up, but that the Patriots signed the backup Gronk. You guys know who I'm talking about. But he's had good relationships with his tight ends, so that could be if you got a 10 touchdown tight end in the 8th round, that's a good value. Then you took Carson Wentz. You took him right where like all those other quarterbacks were going, and that's not bad, like at all. I think Cam, he's right there. Dak, Cam, all those quarterbacks were going. And yes, he had a down year last year, but he was also hurt, right? So it's like if he can stay healthy, if he can stay upright, I think Wentz, has his floor is top 10 if he plays all right. If he's healthy. I feel you. So also it wasn't like I don't think for me this was the kind of the zone to take a quarterback. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, all these guys were there. Drew Brees was initially falling to this kind of range. Let's see. Then you took Peyton Barber. I wrote bum. He's never really stepped up on that team. That offensive line is still bad. So it's still that team, like we're expecting it to take a step up, but that line isn't good. So, but Bruce Arians, right? So we all have that big hope for Bruce Arians, and the starter on that team should thrive. Like ideally, David Johnson was talented 100%. So we don't want to just say, "Oh, Bruce Arians made David Johnson," but I think we can admit that offense was so much better with Arians that a lot of running backs would have been at least serviceable, and taking somebody in the 10th round would have been okay. If he starts, he should be okay. Like the starter of that lineup should be good. After this, I'm gonna take a break. So just know if you're kind of watching this, I'm gonna take like a 2-minute break. But let me finish this up. Deshaun Jackson. So I mentioned the thing about the big plays being like an extra point. It's not a big bonus. It's like maybe a point or two, but still anything makes a difference at the end of the year or during a matchup. And Deshaun Jackson is the king of the big play. Another toy for Carson Wentz to have in that lineup. I don't like him because he's not very consistent, but as a bye week fill-in, it's like you kind of rolling the dice, but he has that potential to be amazing. So not bad as the 126 pick. Then you took the Jaguar defense, who I said should bounce back with a better offense. I think that offense was putting them in bad predicaments last year, which is why they were, I don't want to say struggle, but why they had a letdown compared to to 2017. 2017, they were the top team in the league. But I think, Bortles and that offense, Fournette not playing a lot last year, that offense was constantly putting them in bad situations. No defense. I mean, even the elite of the elite cannot keep good stats up and potential when they're always if you're starting on your end of the 50, you can only hold up that much. So I think actually great pick there in my opinion in the 12th round. Then you took Dabo Samuel, a rookie out of South Carolina. Bro, like I said, I've said this 20 times. It'll be the theme of this. I don't know. We're gonna call it a semi-podcast. This review. Dabo Swinney Samuel, I'm sorry, Dabo Samuel. It's a lottery ticket. What's the worst that can happen? If he doesn't play well the first 5-6 weeks, then you can let him go. But if he shows any signs of life, of having a hold on the second starting spot or the slot position, and he has a good share of the offense, then that can only grow. And at this pick, he was a beast in South Carolina. So it's like, these guys that perform in college, that are drafted, that are like, that have opportunities now in college and the pros, why not? You took Mike Bagley, the kicker. Then you took the two tight ends that you took. I don't know if you have them still on your team, but you took TJ Hawkinson, who, when I was saying we were starting to have this conversation in the group, there's a couple tight ends that are going late. Noah, the kid from Denver, Hawkinson, who was a first-round pick, which is absurd, like an early first-round pick for Detroit. And then Chris Herndon. I actually like Herndon. The thing is, are you going to hold on to him for 4 weeks? I don't know if you already dropped him. I should have checked that. But that's the only thing. Having 3 tight ends on your team, that's weird. That's not a good kind of like process. I would have liked if you didn't take Cook and then these were your 2 guys, because then you can kind of wait on Herndon and see, like, once he comes back, is he gonna be a good option? I think the Jets offense will lean on him a little bit, so I don't think it's a bad pick. I just think having 3 tight ends is weird. So the main kind of theme of your draft, I think you had solid value front to back. I think this is a really good draft. Even with the whole not taking a receiver super early on, you kind of made up with it with those 4 or 5 in a row that you took that were all like, top either 1 or 2 options in their team that have a lot of upside. So I wrote, without Gordon, I think you're a B team, meaning in playoff contention. But with Gordon, I think you're a championship contender. So I gave you, that's why I was saying that there's like I didn't know how to grade it. And I don't think that you're a B plus. That's why I was like, it's either a B or an A. If Gordon plays, I think you shoot up to like championship contender. If he doesn't play, then you're kind of like back into the playoffs, like kind of fighting it out. You have a chance. And, it's a toss-up. Once you get into the playoffs, it's really a roll of the dice. But I did like your draft a lot. And even the players I didn't really like, Peyton Barber is late enough that, and he's the starter in that team. So I didn't really have any places on your team that I was like, oh, this is a trash pick. Even the tight end that you took from the Saints, he has a lot of upside. So I'm more than halfway done because so I'm on Antonio, who was the 5th pick. I'm gonna take a 2-minute break. I'll put a thing in the group me as well for you guys to know. I don't want to stop it because then it breaks it up into 2 separate videos. I got to learn how to like just pause I don't know if you can pause YouTube Live, but I'll be quick. I just gotta use the bathroom, so give me like a minute or 2. Enjoy my plans. I'm sorry. Should have left that music on. Son. My bad for the delay. Anybody still here? Oh shit, 4 people. You guys are ride or die. I love y'all. Um, Let me just comment in the group me just in case people just left it open but don't necessarily like have it like that they're paying attention to it. Oh shit, I need my charger. J- 1 second, I gotta run because I don't want this to cut out. What up, guys and ladies and gents? Sorry for the delay. Very unprofessional. I don't know how to pause this thing. 2 seconds just to drink some water because I had to run up now. All right, so I'm on Antonio's review. He was the number 5th pick. Quads of Steel is his name. My bad, guys. So with the number 5 pick in the first round, he took Zeke Elliott. So even at the time of the draft, I loved him. I was surprised Xavier didn't pick him. I really didn't think that X would let him like fall. I was saying, if we knew that he was gonna play, I thought he could be the number 2 pick. Like I would have thought about taking him at the number 2 pick. In my other league, I took him at 3. So thank you for letting me catch my breath. My bad, guys. He was the number 3. I would have taken him as early as I would have considered even number 1 if it wasn't a PPR league, or we only did like 0.5 for PPR instead of the full PPR. So getting him at 5, I never thought that the Cowboys would let him sit out for a long time. Jerry Jones was talking a lot of, caca out his mouth, but he likes to win. So there was like he actually had Emmitt Smith hold out 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and he only held out like 1 game. The Cowboys lost that game, and best believe he gave him his money. So Jerry Jones likes to talk a lot, but he's also not an idiot. I mean, he has moments where he's an idiot, but he knows that that team has been competing the last three years because of Zeke, solely because of Zeke. Dak looks better because of Zeke. That offense looks better. That team, they keep the defense off the field because they get, a lot of first downs because of Zeke. We all know. If you have to hear, just say one time. So stop putting together shitty teams, Brandon. Well, not shitty, but there's like it's weird, bro. But yeah, Zeke loved him there. Then you took Mike Evans with the 20th pick in the draft. He's like the last elite receiver. Like there's guys after him that were the like I think it's not cooperating that were good options, like number ones, but I don't think like elite like that can win you a week or win you the league. So last year Evans had 138 targets, 86 catches, 1,524 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's been in the league 5 years. Each year he's had over 1,000 yards. He's only 26 years old. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know why he gets this, like people don't like him. And I don't get, like, what the dislike is with him. And there's no more Deshaun Jackson there, so those targets, will be split up between him and Godwin, but I don't see his role, going down. So Mike Evans there, great pick. Then you took Adam Thielen. He was he's like that second tier of the receivers that were there, and he was a good, he's a elite option. Not elite. A great option there of the number 2 picks. You then took Damian Williams, who I didn't like him at the time of the draft, even before the news. Like, I was kind of staying away from him. But the Kansas City running back, there's value there, even if the guy doesn't have a lot of talent. So I was writing, he's been around for a while. Like, it's not like he just been around 5 years in the league. His last year was the highest amount of rush attempts that he's ever had, with 50. That's crazy. He's only had 50 rush attempts was his highest. In 5 years. So you can be a backup and get more than that on a team. So that's why I was like, there's something, I never believed that he would be the only guy there. That's why I took whatever the backup at the time was, Thompson, I think. But still, even with McCoy there, he's not a horrible option. And he can still, if he takes over the job, you're good. Then you took James White. You made up for the Williams pick in my head. You got in PPR. I love him. Love James White. I don't think he replicates what he did last year, because last year was like another world, like another earth. The stats that he had last year. But, even if he comes down, I think he had 11 touchdowns last year, something outrageous, 12, 13 touchdowns. Even he comes back to life, the year before that, he gave 6th round value, 5th round value, and he wasn't that, that elite like he was last year. And if he does anything close to what he did last year, getting him here in a PPR league is a steal. Because if you remember, there was a lot, for most of last year, we were using him as a number 2 starter, not a flex, not anything else. Last year he had, I'll just read it out now. 87 catches, 751 yards, 7 touchdowns in the air from a receiver. Then he had 94 rushes, 425 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So altogether, he had 12 touchdowns. Altogether, he had about 1,100, no, more than 11, about 1,150 yards. Bro, that's amazing. In a PPR league, you got to steal there. Then you took Robbie Anderson, who has a lot of upside. This team is the Jets are sneaky with their potential. I still don't think they might get 6 wins, 7 wins, which is still an upgrade from where they were at last year. And if Robbie Anderson stays healthy and Bell takes away a lot of the attention. So I think the thing about Bell, even if he doesn't get his stats, the defenses have to focus on him. And with I said his name earlier, not Cromartie. The kid from Washington that they just signed. Why am I blanking on this? I'm sorry. Oh, Jamison Crowder. With Jamison Crowder there, they're gonna be. That's the thing. I think they're gonna be a good late, like late round, not late round, but like fourth quarter. They're trying to come back. Oh, exactly. They're gonna be throwing a lot from behind Antonio. Exactly. And I think that's where he's thrived, right? Like that's where he's gotten a lot of his garbage time success has been in that position. So as your second receiver, I didn't love that he was your second guy, but he's not a bad pick either. Then you took Christian Kirk, who I think you took Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. Those were your seventh and your eighth pick. I put if you listen to the CBS podcast, it's called the Friendship Strategy. You took the top two options in that team, and one of them has to eat, right? Like I mean, Larry, he's 2 years ago, he had 100 catch season. He can become Kyler Murray's like blanket, like safety net. Even if he's only getting 10 yards at a time, he's not going to be a guy that breaks a 50-yard catch. But if he gets 90 catches, 800 yards, 90 catches, 900 yards, that's still something that in the eighth round, your team is going to, in a PPR league especially, you're fine. And if Christian Kirk steps up, then that's another where you kind of hit on somebody that for the seventh round could be a fifth round pick, a fourth round, third round pick next year. Like there's a lot of upside with Christian Kirk. Then you took Anthony Miller. I've kind of I've spoken about how I feel about the Bears though, that they spread the ball around a lot, but I think there is space there for somebody to step up. I don't think it's Robinson because it's been a while since he stepped up. Anthony Miller showed a lot of good upside last year. I'm not watching the game now. I don't know how they're doing now. But they need somebody to take the lead. I think that Robinson really, he's been hurt a lot. He never really kind of took that step that you thought, oh, he's the number one guy. They gave him the number one guy money. But I think Anthony Miller, he's fast. Trubisky's gonna take he's gonna one more year in that offensive playbook. I think that team overall can take a step up offensively, and then I think Miller would be the next guy that you can kind of rely on after Tariq Cohen, and before Allen and Robinson. To be honest with you, so I think that's a great pick as your 101 pick in overall. No problem with it. Then you took Adrian Peterson, who I was like, it's gonna split carries with Geis just because they want to keep Geis healthy. If they're really not playing for anything this year, that's the thing. The Washington Redskins, they may be very, very bad. That's kind of the one thing that's kind of, they may not be playing for much. So why are you gonna throw Geis out there who's just coming off an ACL tear, who's the future of the team, if you're behind a lot or if you're not playing competitive ball? Is the reason I don't think they put in Haskins until week 10 maybe. I don't think they want to run Geis into the ground for a meaningless season. Now, if they're competitive, then I don't think AP gets a lot of shine because I think it's gonna be because of Geis that they're competitive. But still, as the 116th pick, that's a if anything happens to Geis, you got a starter. And even without anything happening to Geis, I think you still have a solid, like you can plug them in during bye weeks and maybe get 5, 6 points, 7 points. You're not going to get a 0 out of him. You took Golden Tate, who I put this good upside for PPR. And I know you're a Giant fan, but that 4-game suspension, are you really going to hold on to Golden? Like, is Golden Tate good enough that you're going to keep him for 4 games when the team, isn't it, when he's not playing. But then you took Traquan Smith, who I love, right? Like, that's the thing. Don't comment before I'm done because you do have upside guys. Anthony Miller, Traquan Smith. I think it's a lottery ticket, but that's definitely an upside guy. If he takes the number 2 receiver role in the Saints offense, bro, that's been a valuable role. It was Cooks and Thomas. And then now it's Thomas and who's the next guy? Is it Snead? I mean, well, Snead isn't there anymore. But when that year where Snead had an opportunity, but legit, like there's nobody else really there. The tight end Cook could take a spot, a good role, but is he really gonna be? There's no other outside guy that they have there. So I think Traquan, just if he just plays, has potential to kind of take that role. Then you took Kyler Murray, one of the most accurate QBs in college ever. The 13th round, bro. It's not a bad QB pick. And let's say he fails. Worst case scenario, he fails. You still have decent options that are replaceable quarterbacks. But let's say he thrives. He can have a low interception season with like 20 touchdowns and run for 200, 300, 400 yards. Bro, that's a good season. Yeah, Ozuna did draft 3 tight ends, Brandon. But yeah, I like Kyler Murray. I would have taken him if you didn't take him there. Then you took Eric Ebron, who I don't. That's one person I don't like. It's your first tight end. Is it your first tight end? Yeah, it is your first tight end. That's not bad though. Like I mean, he had an elite season last year. If he has even a third of half of what he did last year, he's still a good option. And the only thing is Doyle. Like, what role does Doyle play in that lineup with Brissett there? There were a couple tight ends. I don't know if Ozuna dropped any of his tight ends, but no way he's gonna have 700 yards rushing. I don't think Murray's gonna run for that much, bro. Like he didn't run for that much in college. But I think he can have. I think you're right that he can have 4 to 5 touchdowns running, which is added value for him. But I think Murray's still a solid floor because he wasn't a bad quarterback. Like not bad, but he wasn't an inaccurate quarterback in college. He doesn't have that. And yeah, there is Jimmy Garoppolo as well. There's still talent available, but I think Kyler Murray, and if you get a backup for him, you'd be fine. Then you took Rosas, who the Giants are going to be kicking a lot of field goals. He has a big leg. There's no problem with that. You took the Saints, but then you dropped them. I put, if Zeke doesn't play, you're shallow. But once Zeke is back on your team, you have a really good team. And we got the news today that Zeke is going to be playing. So I think that that you have a playoff contender, bro. So I gave you a B/B minus, B plus actually. So, and this was before the Zeke news. So actually, I'll give you a B plus. I know you said that you don't like that you don't have a upside guys. I disagree. Miller, Smith, Kyler Murray. I think then having Zeke in the first round was that he fell to you. It's still a good pick. So yeah, I liked your draft. There wasn't any place where I felt like you had a bad, like I mean, Damian Williams maybe the only one that I thought was, but that wasn't your first running back. And still, the running back on the KC offense has value. I don't think that McCoy at 31. I do, right? My class of yeah, no, I liked your team, Antonio. And maybe I'm just because of Zeke and Mike Evans. Like I like the beginning of your draft a lot, and you have some solid value up picks after that. So yeah, I mean, solid playoff contender. I'm gonna move on to Xavier, who had the 4th pick. X, you had a really good draft as well. You took DeAndre Hopkins, and I wrote, to me, he's the clear number 1 receiver in the league. Some people like Devontae Adams, some people like Julio. To me, is DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe it's because I have a man crush on him, but before Watson became the quarterback, he was still putting up amazing numbers. So Oswalder was his quarterback one year. He still put up 1,000 yards. I think once he got, he got his Big Ben, he got his Tom Brady, and Watson is an elite level quarterback. Then I think, how many man crushes do I have? Watson and DeAndre Hopkins are those, but once he's made bums, he still had respectable elite numbers with bums. So now that he has Watson, he's only missed one game in his entire career. Bro, that's beast. Like, he's been in the league, is it 6 years now? Yeah, in 6 years. He's had over 10 touchdowns 3 out of the 6 years he's been in the league. I'm surprised you didn't take Zeke in the 4th place, X, but I understand why you took Hopkins. I have no problem with Hopkins being the guy. Then you took Keenan Allen. You got 2 elite receivers in your first 2 picks. No problem with that. That are going to put up close to 100 catches. Well, Keenan make close to 100 catches, or maybe 1,200 yards. He's a great value there. Then you took George Kittle. That's the first pick that I was like, I get he performed like a 3rd round pick, 2nd round pick last year. I don't know. Y'all gassing it. I don't think Antonio's team is ugly, but we can argue that after. Zeke, Evans, Thielen, James White, Robbie Anderson, whatever. But I'm sorry. Xavier. So Xavier's team, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, George Kittle. Still, you got an elite level. That's the guy I was forgetting earlier when I was saying the tight end. Kittle is the 3rd guy. You can argue 2nd guy behind Kelsey. Then you took Watson in the 4th round. You took Watson before Mahomes, which was a little wild. I really like Watson. I don't like him that much. But I think you said that you auto drafted him, which is still, we're grown while we auto drafting anything at this point. But you still got the number 2 quarterback in the league a little bit earlier than you needed to, but you recovered from that really well. You took David Montgomery. He's a rookie that's looked solid. I'm not watching the game. Hopefully he's not making me look bad. Even if all he does is take Howard's workload, that's a solid pick in the 5th round. You went 0 RB, quote unquote. That was your first RB. I did like him. There's, I think, like I said, hopefully he's not making me look bad. But I think if he takes up the vacuum that was left there from Howard, I think he's going to be more than enough. And he's supposed to be a better athlete. He was showing up in the preseason. So I think he's great. Then you took Sterling Shepard in the 6th round, which was I think he's a good value there. He becomes the Giants' number 1 option on offense. So DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, and Shepard, no problem him being your 3rd guy in a PPR league. He's gotten enough burn here that that him becoming the guy, the number 1 option, is gonna lead to, even if it's just because of quantity, right? There's gonna be a lot more targets coming his way. I think that's where he'll step up, just kind of law of averages type of thing. Then you took Josh Gordon, who I put has top 3 talent, could be a steal in the 7th round. However, then, I did write 1 RB through 7 rounds. But you got a guy that is at least the number 1 starter in David Montgomery. We then you drafted McCoy, who on draft day, I was like, no way. He's a terrible pick. However, you did draft the handcuff, which I wrote was smart. And then smarter after McCoy gets sent to KC. So you look brilliant because you now get McCoy and KC, who could be a number 2, number 3 running back, and then but you get Singletary, who you took later on, who's gonna be a number 2, like a number 2 running back to start the season. Like I'm talking about values, meaning, but he's the number 1 guy with Gore, and I don't see the Bills giving Gore that much more burn. It may be a 60-40 split early on, but I think it becomes very clear that it's Singletary's job by like week 4 or 5. So I think it worked out beautifully for you, that McCoy Singletary pairing that you did there. It's almost like when G last year did Williams and Aaron Jones. You get a backfield that when it works out, whoever's the starter, you're still gonna get value from that starter. Then you took Michael. Well, not then because I'm kind of jumping around. Singletary was your 12th pick. So McCoy was your 8th pick. Singletary was your 12th. Your 9th pick was Michael Gallup, who I love the upside. First round guy last year. Amari Cooper takes the pressure off of him, so you don't have the pressure of the number 1 cornerback kind of on you. I think that's valuable for a young kind of a second year guy who had a lot of tout coming out of college. They do have Cobb now there as well, but I do think that that Michael Gallup takes a big step up this year. And that's a great pick. Then you took Delaney Walker. I was like, you took George Kittle super early. You don't need a backup tight end. And I don't think Delaney Walker is like when you had Ertz and Gronk. Like, where you have 2 elite level tight ends where you're going to be starting to most of the year. This is not that situation. Delaney Walker is a serviceable tight end that, if you hadn't drafted any tight end, I'd have been like, okay, that's fine. You'll get your floor of 6 to 7 points. On a good week, he gets you a touchdown and you're happy. But so that's the only pick I wrote that I hated, and that is kind of a strong word. You took Dion Lewis. I was like, in PPR, there's no better value. He's the second guy in Tennessee, but they signed him to a big contract last year as the backup running back. He gets a lot of work in that offense. We saw Derrick Henry wasn't getting any burn or anything near what a starter should be getting up until like week 10. So we don't know what the new coaching staff is going to be like, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what it's the offensive coordinator. I think is different, not the coaching staff, but the offensive coordinator, if he just lets Henry, run the rock, or what happens with Dion Lewis. Then you took Singletary, which I've already mentioned. You took Dak Prescott, which I wrote. So the 2 things I didn't like, taking a backup quarterback and a backup tight end when you took guys hella early. 3rd round, you took a tight end. 4th round, you took a quarterback. Don't take any more of those positions the rest of the draft. That's probably the only thing that I took like points off of your draft. Jalen Richard, PPR upside, another guy that had like 70 catches last year. So you made up for the not taking running back super early with Montgomery, who I like, and then the McCoy, Singletary, Dion Lewis, and Richard. It's for PPR guys that you can just plug into the number 2 running back position and not feel like you're giving up that much. You took the Vikings D, and then Brett Maher, a good kicker from the Cowboys. You showed your love for the Cowboys, but not in a mean or a bad way. You didn't sacrifice your team. The only one was Dak. So I put Dak Prescott, Dak and Delaney Walker, worst picks. Best picks were Singletary and Gallup. And then the rest of your draft was just kind of like a solid. I didn't have any problems with your draft. So I gave you just a B. A solid, not a B minus, not a B plus, just a B. I think you're above those teams that I said were kind of like all together, all those B minuses that were like on the cusp of getting in the playoffs. I think like you're a playoff contender towards the back end, but still a solid team. Is on G. I don't know if G's still here. All right, so Gabriel's team is Alvin, get the tables, and then he had the third pick, so he took Alvin Kamara. I just wrote the the I took McCaffrey in this draft to kind of limit my exposure to Kamara because I have him in at least two leagues, and yeah, in two leagues, and I was like, you know what, I think Kamara and McCaffrey are kind of, you can flip a coin, and the performances that they gave last year. But I think Kamara, you can flip a coin with all those guys, Kamara, Barkley, Zeke. He was clearly the next best guy. So there was, like, I understand why you took him there. I don't know. I've already wasted enough time with him. He's had like 15 touchdowns the last 2 years. That's it. That's all you need to know. Dalvin Cook. So I love the upside. No Murray stealing his touchdowns away. So Murray was a touchdown thief. So I think the upside that Dalvin Cook has this year is really up. You know, when he came out of Florida State, he was killing the league before he tore his ACL. Last year was the year that he came back. He came back really fast from the ACL. He had a lot of soft tissue issues that he was having in last year. But I think this year it's the year after the injury, has fully healed. I think this year he returns back to the guy we saw those first 7 games in 2017 when he was a rookie, where we were like, ooh, this is nice. Is this what, this is why they took him in the first round. And once again, no Murray, no more touchdown vulture. He's going to be the guy. Yeah, they drafted the kid, Madison, and which I'm pretty sure you drafted. Yeah, you got his handcuff as well, who's also like a big stocky dude. So we'll see if he steals steals some of it. But I still think Cook is the trusted guy. No fumble issues. He's the guy in Minnesota, and they want to run the ball a lot. We've actually talked about this. So then you took Chris Carson. Seahawks want to run the ball a lot. That's what they want to do. I absolutely think that he easily gets 1,100, 1,200 yards as long as he stays healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, then that's where Penny has a good opportunity to kind of jump in and take the job, but really good up to that point. You took three running backs, which are your first 3 picks, which is, like I said, this is a weird pattern that I kind of kept finding in places. 3 straight running backs, 3 straight receivers. People kind of did this all over the place. However, they were still kind of the best players available. So at no point in where you took these guys did I think, oh, that was weird. You kind of reached for this person. Then you took Cooper Kupp as your first receiver. I like Cooper Kupp, but he coming off a torn ACL. They're saying that he's faster than he was before he tore it. That's still, like, he tore it late last year. It wasn't like an early injury. It was like week 10. So I mean, I know medicine is getting better. I know, all the things that we're getting better with. But as the first receiver, I have my questions. But still, I said this about Cook. I said it about Woods. Their floors between 900 to like 1,100 yards, 5 to 10 touchdowns, all 3 of them. So I think, that's still a good player to have there. Then you took Alshon Jeffries. You know how much I hate him. I have stats to back this up. I hate. I don't know why he goes this early. Like, I wouldn't dislike him if he wasn't like constantly thrown at us as a top number 1 option. He's not a number 1 option. He hasn't been a number 1 option since Chicago. Like, he's never, like, even then. So he's been in the league now. So I'm just updating the stats from last year because it's the same things. He's been in the league now 8 years. He's been healthy 3 out of the 8 years. He's only had 1,000 yards twice in 8 years. So 1,000 is a good, low-level threshold for what you can say a number 1, 2, 3, even a 3 receiver in fantasy, right? Which goes up to like 60, 70 range when you're saying, okay, I can draft somebody in the 70s and get somebody that close to 1,000, right? Maybe once in their life they've gotten 1,000. So he's been in the league 8 years, only twice. He's only gotten over 10 touchdowns once. So he's this big red zone threat that everybody thinks he's a great, amazing receiver. No, bro, not this early. Like if he went in the 10th round with Deshaun Jackson, then sure, he's the same guy in my head. Because Deshaun Jackson has games. Actually, Deshaun Jackson 2 years ago went over 1,000 yards and had, I think, 8 touchdowns. So that's going to be my comp. Alshon Jeffrey is, for some reason, a guy that gets drafted 6 rounds earlier, a Deshaun Jackson wannabe. So that's why I don't like. I text you like, bro, yuck. And I think I had taken. Apparently, I took somebody that you really wanted when right before this pick. But yeah, so that's why I kind of harp on that. But somebody had to take him. He's just not a good player. Like for a number 1 player, he's a good supporting guy. That yes, he's a better real life football player than he is a fantasy asset for anybody's team. But I digress. You then took Dede Westbrook. Well, I actually love this pick. This is the first one that I'm like, yes, I'm all about Dede this year. I think he's the number 1 option. I think Nick Foles really likes him. I think Nick Foles is a considerable step up from Bortles. Bortles wasn't even a NFL caliber quarterback. He 4 years in the league, 3 years, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years in the league. He never was even respectable as a freaking quarterback. So, Dede, I think another dude that showed a lot of upside last year, and he will show that. I think he's the clear number 1 option in Jacksonville. And I think you got to steal at the number 70 pick. I think you got a guy that next year we're going to be drafting 3rd round latest, like 2nd and 3rd round latest. Then you took Miles Sanders. I put I told you, bro, I got the stats to back it up though. G said that I'm flaming and Alshon. It's just, I don't know. I already talked about it. So you took Miles Sanders, rookie. I like the upside. I have really no problem with Miles Sanders. The only thing that was kind of missing is I think because they took Sproles, because they have Howard, there's a lot of, like, I think the running backs there's a lot of mouths to feed there with the kind of the Chicago Bear thing that I was saying earlier, that with the passing options is the opposite for what I think the Eagles, right? I think the Eagles just have a lot of running back options that they're going to kind of cycle through. Even Clement from last year, the guys that they were kind of using sporadically even last year are still there. So it's like, like who shakes out in Philly? If he even gets 50% of the runs, that's still a really good option. I don't, so I don't want to like bury him. I think that's a great option. But, and this is kind of the only pattern in your draft, you had running backs. You didn't really have to take them there. Then you took Geronimo Allison, which I liked. The upside, once again, I'm not watching the game, so you guys can tell me. So Scatley, Geronimo Allison, like who's stepping up as the second guy? You kind of whoever becomes Rodgers' second guy is a league winner. Like that can propel you to the championship in a league, because it's, Devontae Adams was that guy 3 years ago, 4 years ago that became, the sneaky, Jordy Nelson was the guy that everybody was drafting, but Adams was the guy getting 10 touchdowns or, close to 10 before he became like the official starter. Then you took Matt Breida, who has surpassed Coleman on the depth chart. They're saying that that it's not necessarily like true that he's going to be starting, but it's without McKinnon there, he has a very good opportunity of taking over that job. However, now you have, 6 running backs? Yeah, 6 running backs and like 1, 2, 3, and 4 receivers. Not horrible. I mean, all the running backs that you took are really good running backs. Excuse me. Then you took Austin Hooper, who for your 10th pick, 118th pick, not a bad pick at all. Um, but then you take another running back. You take Justin Jackson, who you have trade bait at the very least, because without Gordon there, Eckler's definitely going to get the first kind of shine, but I can definitely see Justin Jackson, if if Gordon doesn't play, being a guy that has, let's say, 5 to 6 touchdowns by the end of the year, or maybe by week 10. So he's somebody that you're like, oh, maybe I could play him, maybe I can't, and could be a value to some of these teams that don't have really good running backs. You have depth there that you can kind of try to pry away a really good receiver from somebody else. And then you took Russell Wilson, and I wrote, this is why we wait on quarterback. You took him with the 12th pick. I thank you for following the script. And once again, not to bash anybody else, but Russell Wilson was a top 5 quarterback for the last 4 years, and you got him. Yes, he's fallen from the graces, but still a respectable, a guy that you're not gonna be worried about. Should you start him? Should you not? I really don't think that that's gonna be maybe with a really tough defense will be the only time that you're like, okay, maybe I should stream somebody off the free agency. 12th pick, 142nd round. 142nd overall. You took Adam Humphries. I wrote, I really don't feel any which way about him. I don't think that there was other receivers here that I've kind of googly eyed earlier in the review over a lot of rookies that have been kind of, but I can see Adam Humphries having an impact this year, so it's not a horrible pick. Then you took, I mentioned it earlier, you took Mattison, I don't know how you say his name, but the backup for Dalvin Cook. Shore up the backfield. I like that you're doing that. Worst case scenario, something happens to one of your top picks, you got the backup, you're good to go. Then you took the Titans D, Matt Prater. So I wrote, you did show discipline in quarterback, defense, kicker. It was Brandon. This is what I say. I don't draft that way. This is kind of more of a way I look at a draft where you're getting value everywhere. I gave you a B-. I think you're on that kind of that the cusp, you're right in the playoff, B-, B, where you're close to the playoffs. You're kind of sniffing the playoffs, but it wasn't a bad draft at all. It was other than the Alshon, obviously, I think you had a solid draft. So yeah, I put that you're formidable at wide receiver, but it's definitely not it's a weakness. But then your strength at running back, it goes on and on and on and on at running back. You have running backs for days that you can, there's value there with the guys that you took, and the receivers aren't that bad. You did try to. It wasn't like you did when you went running back heavy early, but then you made sure 5 out of the next 7 picks were receivers. So you at least, it's not like you're coming in barely having guys to kind of fill out a roster with. Okay, so there goes G's, and then I'm almost done. I didn't even. This is nice. So I was the number 2 pick. I don't like reviewing my own team. I guess I'll do it after. Should I do it before Joe? I don't know. I don't write my own review. I can just kind of go through it if you guys want me to. I think I had a decent draft. I don't think I had a bad draft. This is out of the teams that I've drafted this year, was definitely potentially the weakest one, which, not to brag, I think I had a pretty good draft season. Let me just give me 1 second. I'll just go through it really quickly. All right, so this is not the team. I'm sorry for the delay. All right, so I took Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette. Oh, so I would say what I thought was important this year, actually. I told Angelus at the draft party that we had. By the way, you guys that missed out, shame on you. The food, we have food. Everybody took home like 2 plates of food. Everybody ate great. It was like $30 a head, and it was 5 of us or 6 of us. Imagine how we had 10 of us there. It would have been like $15 for all the food. Probably less than, well, about $15 for all the food. And then we had a separate tab for the drinks. The drinks were very affordable too. I'm done preaching to you. But next time we plan something, you guys better make it out. Took Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette. Then I took receiver. So I was saying, if you had one of those early round picks, I thought it was smart to then double up on with a running back, or at least on that turn, the 2-3 turn, to get a second running back, because I thought the elite level running backs fell off really hard shortly after the third round. I thought there was a tier. The tier behind the elite level receivers were very close to the Evans, um, the Keenan Allens of the world, even the OBJs. Like, those guys are, the A's, the solid A's that we all know. But that tier right behind them, I don't, so I'm going to kind of list them off. I took Amari Cooper. So I took those 2 running backs to start, and then I went receiver heavy. Amari Cooper, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin. I feel like all 3 of those guys are the next level behind, but I don't feel like they're that behind Keenan Allen and even Odell. Not Odell. Well, I think Odell is top level, but Antonio Brown. Those guys that were going in the second round, I don't feel like any of those guys are so far behind that I'm missing out. Kenny Golladay had 1,000 yards last year, like 8 touchdowns, over 80 catches. Amari Cooper, the same thing. He broke out. Chris Godwin, we're hoping that he breaks out this year. Then I think I took Hunter Henry. I think he was one of the good tight ends there. He came back from a torn ACL in like 6 months. He was playing last year towards the end of the year, was healthy enough to play. I think, 7, 8, close to a year later, I think he's fine, at least health-wise. We've seen how they've done with Antonio Gates, how Rivers has done with Antonio Gates. I think that's a really good. I lucked out, I feel like, with that pick. Then I took Duke Johnson. He had just been traded to Houston. We didn't know kind of what was going to happen. Lamar Miller had just torn his ACL. It was a great pick that day, and I still stick behind it. I think Duke Johnson can be not a number 1 at any chance, but I think in PPR he can be like the James White, the Tevin Colemans of the world. He's only 2 years removed from having an over 70 catch season with the Browns. Let's see who else is here. I took James Washington, who I've mentioned like 7 times. The Steelers have 160 targets to distribute among the rest of the team since Antonio Brown isn't there anymore. I definitely think that James Washington is one of the people that benefits from that. Let's see. And he could be, him and Moncrief could battle it out, but he could be the number 2 receiver in that team, and it won't surprise me at all. Then my bench, I took John Brown, McKeel Hartman. So John Brown in Buffalo. Josh Allen likes to air it out. McKeel Hartman, was the second pick or the first pick this year. Whatever. He was drafted by Kansas City. He's ideally going to be the number 2 receiver there, or number 3 behind Watkins. He has a lot of talent. He's very fast. He's very quick. The upside is crazy, and I'm just rolling the dice, right? That's what I keep mentioning to you. So this isn't the team I drafted, though. I had the Darwin Thompson, the backup in Kansas City. I had a couple other people because this team, the way I have it now, and I think I had drafted DJ Shark though. So DJ Shark was my last pick. That Jacksonville team is wide open. I was able to pick up Mitch Trubisky off the free agency, and yeah. So I think my team, I gave it a, what did I give my team? A B plus. I think I'll be in contention for the playoffs. I don't think I'm the best team by any means though, because I think there was other teams that had more like solid front to back. I do have like lottery picks at the end. We'll see if they hit. But then let's talk about Joe. So I feel like Joe's been listening the entire time. And then I'm almost done. Hooray. So Joe had the first pick in the draft. He took Saquon. I wrote duh. I'm not gonna waste too much time on the Saquon pick. He's a good pick. Duh. Like in PPR, there's a lot of value there. I took Kerryon Johnson. It's his backfield now. There's nobody, no Riddick. I mean, I know CJ Anderson is there, so technically, it's not 100% his backfield, but for all intents and purposes, there's not a third down back that they're gonna spell him with. Yeah, CJ could kind of help, when he's tired or just to keep him fresh. That's why you have CJ Anderson there. But CJ's never really been a good player. Angel, thank you for rocking with me. I'm almost done. Then you took Aaron Jones, and here's where the pattern starts to kind of show itself. Took Aaron Jones. I really don't have a problem with Aaron Jones. He was one of the guys that I was kind of iffy about. I'm not 100% sure if the new coach lets him run away with it. Last year we saw release, feed Aaron Jones, right? And break the chains on Aaron Jones. Like the talent seems to be clear, right? And once again, I'm not watching the game. So hopefully he's eating and doing very well today. But I think Jamal Williams still has a role on that team. So okay. I'm glad I'm recording without knowing what's going on, but I do feel like he's not trusted the way other guys going in this area are. Then you took Philip Lindsay, another guy that I was like, like, I don't think he's a bad running back. By no means. He had a great rookie year. He stepped up. He outshined Royce Freeman, but he also fell off towards the end of the year last year. And then you have 4 straight running backs with like it's getting weird. Then you took Darius Geis, who once again I like Darius Geis. I'm not saying anything bad about Darius Geis. So he was a second round pick last year. He was like we were all, not all of us, but the people paying attention fell in love with him last year. Luckily, I don't want to say luckily, but luckily he got injured before most drafts happened, because a lot of us would have spent draft capital on him last year because the hype was fully behind Darius Geis. But now, just to kind of recap, actually, let me just say the next one. Then you took Austin Eckler with your 6th pick. So you have the first 6 rounds of the draft, you took 6 running backs. And like the first 2 are amazing. And then Eckler, I mean, if Gordon is out, then you're good. But even Geis, like, I get why you took him in the 5th round, because he wasn't falling much past like the 7th or 8th round, but it was still a little bit of a reach. Yeah, exactly, Angel. That's and on the low, because we weren't. I don't think any of us even mentioned it at the draft that why are you taking so many running backs, because he was sitting right next to us. But like in a vacuum, I like Darius Geis. In a vacuum, I like Austin Eckler. But like on this team, Like, what are you doing? It's kind of the question. Like when I was reviewing it, I was like, okay, I don't know what happened. And you were sober, so I'm not 100% sure. Then your first receiver in the 7th round is Emmanuel Sanders. Like another guy that he tore it wasn't his Achilles last year. And yes, he's looked good in the preseason, but are we just gonna forget that Flacco's the quarterback? Are we gonna forget that Flacco's only had one guy ever, Steve Smith, with over 1,000 yards in his entire career? That offense isn't that good. So I mean, for that to be the first receiver, super suspect. Then you took Baker Mayfield, who here I don't mind him. He was the 96th pick overall. He has a lot of toys to play with. He had a great, for a rookie starting quarterback. He had a great rookie class, rookie year. And OBJ, Chubb having a full year. Kareem Hunt, even when Kareem Hunt comes back, he has a lot of toys to play with on that offense now. So it's a good pick, but we've now gone 8 rounds, and you only have one receiver, and it's freaking Emmanuel Sanders, bro. Like, then you took Kiki Kuti, who I said decent, has good upside, but what he played like 7 games last year, 6 games. Like he wasn't really, he wasn't really on the field. When he was on the field, he was all right. And yes, granted, Fuller hasn't been the most healthy QT. All right, thank you, Angel. He really hasn't been. Fuller hasn't been the unlike Hopkins, who's been nothing but healthy. These other two haven't proven anything, but now they bring in Stills, and you have a lot of mouths to feed there. But now that's your second receiver. Then you took Trey Burton at number 120. Well, I know you're a Chicago, like a homer. And he's a like of the guys left around that time, he's a good deep tight end. I have no problem with him. He's definitely not elite, but he'll get you. There's a floor there on weeks where he was never the focus of that offense, which was a little bit frustrating last year. But still, I mean, you could have did worse. Like, I can't. That's not a pick that I can really get mad about. Then you took the Bears defense in the 11th round. So loving understanding your love for the Bears and getting that they're going to be an elite defense. I'm sure they're doing amazing right now. Okay, like he's a cutie. I get it, Angel. Thank you for helping me with the pronunciation. The Bears defense. Still, I think that might have been the first defense that was drafted in the entire draft, which is fine. You want to beat everybody else to it because that's your favorite team. I get it. But you now have gone 11 picks and have 2 receivers, Emmanuel Sanders and Cutie. Then you're setting yourself up with a major weakness in a PPR league. That's the other thing. It's not like this isn't, a full point PPR. It's just a strategy. Like Brandon said, he hates it. It's just something I would never do in a draft. And it's like I don't understand I like understanding the formulas or the going into a draft. Like kind of, what was he thinking? I don't get what was happening here because I thought receiver was very deep. Then you took Sanu, who I hate. So I'm like, your third receiver is a guy that's like an afterthought in his offense. Let me just see who else you took before. Then you took Zerline. Once again, you kind of you filled your defense, kicker, tight end, all by the 13th round. We had 3 picks left, and you only had 3 receivers up through the 13th pick. So then you took Deshaun Hamilton, who has upside. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's like taking Lamar Miller if you draft 0 RB. Mm. I think Lamar Miller had a higher floor, 100% than Sanu though. As I would think, you know what I would compare it to? Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald has a safe floor that's comparable to Lamar Miller. Um, I don't know that I consider Sanu because at least you can consider it week to week, Angel. That's kind of the thing that I'm saying. Sanu is not a week to week floor type of guy. He had the weeks that he performs, yes, you're happy with it. But there are weeks that he definitely disappears. And that's kind of the part that's why I don't like him, and but still, if he's your sixth receiver, your fifth receiver, I'm not gonna harp on Sanu that much. The same way, like I said earlier, if Alshon Jeffries is your fifth guy or your fourth guy, I'm not gonna kind of beat you up. But your third receiver overall, that's a really bad pick. You have to have some depth, and that's not where you build it. Deshaun Hamilton, I like. There's a lot of upside. I'm gonna kind of go back to what I said about Emmanuel Sanders, and even Flacco is not the most consistent guy. That Denver offense is not gonna be the best offense. So Sutton, Emmanuel Sanders, Deshaun Hamilton. In no world do I see all three of them having good seasons. So that's kind of the thing. Two of them maybe. One of them definitely, I think one of them can have close to 1,000, and then the rest of them are like 700, 600-yard guys. There's no way I see all of them succeeding this year. So that's kind of the thing. Then you took Ted Ginn Jr., who I'm like, another there were other lottery, like Deshaun Hamilton types that I would have rather you did. But, and then you took Jack Doyle, who I wrote, he's decent. I understand taking a backup for Trey Burton because there were weeks where he disappeared as well. But yeah, overall, there was a lot. Like the receiver thing, I didn't like, but there were other teams that did the running back heavy that then kind of made up for it. There were teams that did the receiver heavy and then they made up for it with the running backs they took. I don't think you accomplished that at all. So I don't mind you going heavy in one direction. It's not something I do, but if you at least compensate for it later on, I'm not belittling your draft when I'm doing this review. Angel, Brandon, I've acknowledged that it's something I don't do, but I respect the way I think they successfully kind of managed that landmine that could have been, where you're super weak at a position. No, they kind of made up for it. I think you did not do that at all. This is a hole, it's a gashing hole through your team. And you're leaking, you're the Titanic right now. So you got the worst grade of the draft. I gave you a D, like a D plus, C minus, and it's more like a D. I didn't like the team at all. Other than Saquon and Carry-On, who I do like, everybody else I can kind of poke holes in. And, if even the running backs where it's supposed to be a strength, Darius Geis is kind of questionable. Philip Lindsay is a little bit questionable. Aaron Jones is a little bit questionable. Even Eckler, if Melvin Gordon comes back, yeah, he's all right. None of those guys am I sitting here banging the trumpet on, except Carry-On and Barkley. The rest of them, I'm kind of eh. So that's why I didn't the draft. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep going at it, but it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't. We've been in 100 leagues together. It wasn't your best draft. So, just to recap, I'm gonna do a 2-minute what I think the final. Well, no, what I ranked the draft at after, and so let's see. Let me get a pen. Okay, so from 12 to 1, I ranked Joe's team number 12 coming out of the draft. I ranked Ari's team number 11. I ranked Renee's team number 10. And then here's the little, I said there was even starting at Renee. Renee was a C plus B minus, and then the rest of you guys here are all like B minuses. So Brandon 9, Lily 8, G 7, and then Angel was 6. You remember 17's getting the playoffs, so that's what I was saying. That little cusp, I couldn't. I sat on the train to work this morning, and then coming back from work trying to figure out how I would like lay it out, and I could not for the life of me figure it out. I must have changed that like 7 times. I finally just sat on, this is how I'm gonna just present it to you guys. The rest of it I thought was a little bit easier. Like the top teams, I think, and once again, you guys can argue. That's why I'm doing this. Hopefully, the debate goes. You guys can call me a crazy person on the chat. So Angel was 6, Antonio was 5, Xavier 4, I was 3, 1 was 2, Darwinson was 1. So I'll repeat it: Joe, Ari, Renee, Brandon, Lily, G, Angel, Antonio, Xavier, myself, Juan, and Darwinson. And that's it. I don't know if anybody wants to give me feedback on that. I'm kind of tired of talking. It always takes this long. Well, no, I cut it under 3 hours this time at least. But thank you for everybody that stood around for the entire thing. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Enjoy. Good luck, 2019. Hopefully, this is the beginning of an amazing year, and we'll meet up a couple times during the season. As always, I hope, I love you guys. Thank you for staying through. I see 7 people watching right now. You guys are the best. Have a nice night. Good luck. Take care.